with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akua.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
That was just one of the bold claims made by the President of the United States as he addressed the United Nations in an astonishing hour-long speech full of challenges for European leaders. But Mr. Trump also took the opportunity to reaffirm his views on London Mayor Sadiq Khan.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law.
London Mayor Sadiq Khan fires back. I'll have what he says in a moment.
Red Day warning. Experts are forecasting major small boat migrant crossings days from this Friday. GB News can confirm Border Forces bracing for a huge surge this weekend, just in time for the Labour Party's conference.
Yeah, we've had a week of bad weather in the Channel, but all that clears up come Friday. Expect potentially well over 1,000 on Saturday and Sunday.
In more good news for the country, Britain is forecast to see the highest rate of inflation of any of the G7 advanced economies this year. Stay tuned to find out what this means for the diminishing value of the pennies in your pocket.
And Nigel Farage is claiming that migrants are stealing and eating the swans from the royal parks in Britain as he highlights major cultural differences between being imported due to mass immigration. But what is the truth? Yeah, well, a very, very busy week, I've got to say, already, and it's only Wednesday. I actually listened to the entire Donald Trump speech.
Yes.
I thought he was very eloquent. I thought he was to the point, and I love the fact he said, I don't care. You know, we got one of the hardest countries on the planet. We are the hardest country. And I love the, you know, when he said this, obviously his autocue failed, and then the steps, and he gets lucky that Melania is, you know, quite a fit lady, otherwise another... I mean, it was just... But he was right on so many things.
He has a way of being able to sort of just charge on and charge through. I think other leaders would have struggled much more had their auto cues come down. But it was interesting to look at how he was received at the UN compared to in his first term.
Yeah,
when they laughed.
They laughed, yeah.
And there was a particular moment where I think it was the German delegation that was laughing when he was saying, you're too dependent on Russian gas.
Yeah.
Well, who's laughing now?
Exactly.
But I suppose there is a big issue here that is... there were things that he said that were well outside the norm of diplomatic conversation.
What, like your countries are going to hell?
Well, attacking allies. And that might be a difficulty if you're trying to build broad coalitions.
But not if you're telling the truth. Right, if you're telling the truth, sometimes the truth hurts and you have to be honest. I mean, he was only supposed to have 15 minutes like the others, but he went on for 57.
Gosh. Well, Christopher Hope, our political editor, is sitting around the table. I mean, this was a very unusual speech from Trump.
Yes, well, yeah, but they all are, aren't they? I mean, it reminded me of when President Gaddafi came and spoke to the UN. He went on for, I think, 3 hours. I mean, although the red light is flashing, end it now. If you're leader of the free world and this is your chance to put one over on them. And, of course, he was cross because I think the escalator wouldn't work properly. We think that someone might have suddenly on the alarm there. And, of course, there's an issue with the auto cue. And he hates the idea of these multilateral institutions, the UN being a prime case. So I think it kind of worked. And what he said, though, I think almost more interestingly, was outside the chamber. He was asked directly by a reporter, should NATO countries fire back if Russians incurred on their airspace? He said yes. That is absolutely huge. I mean, he went there and made big news.
But I thought he was right. I mean, I thought he was right. And, of course, he said that in migration, we're going to hell. I mean, because...
Well, he's alluding to the fact that there is huge strain and tension within countries, particularly in Europe, because of the mass migration that they've seen, many of it legal, lots of it illegal, of course. And that is an issue that he feels he has got latitude to talk on because he points to the southern border. Our own Ben Leo was down in Arizona this week seeing how that huge influx of people across the southern border has dried out, you know, up to virtually nothing officially coming over the border now.
Really significant changes, Chris.
Well, there's some news breaking this hour from Sadiq Khan. So we heard, didn't we, how the president said there that he looked at London, where we have a terrible mayor, a terrible mayor. It's been changed. It's been so changed. Then he said, now they want to go to Sharia law. But you're in a different country. You can't do that. Now, until now, Sadiq Khan hadn't dignified those remarks, and he would say that with those remarks. But Sadiq Khan is now, in the last few moments, said this. He thinks President Trump has shown he's racist, he is sexist, he is misogynist, and he is Islamophobic. So Sadiq Khan completely doubling down there on what Donald Trump said about him.
Well, I suppose it's a movement from far right, which is what he calls everybody. So, I don't know. This name-calling, I don't think, is very productive.
Because they can do, can't they? He's not part of the administration. He's the most senior elected person who isn't part of the Labour government. He's almost, I think, channeling the left's fury, this derangement syndrome about Trump through his remarks there.
I think that there is a really big element of this, that is, how much is Sadiq Khan positioning himself? He sort of sees it as perhaps an electoral advantage for him to keep this backwards and forwards row against Donald Trump going, trading barbs, trading insults. I mean, it helps them both with their own electoral
That's
bases.
why it's a kind of cost-free row. It goes back to the row about the Trump baby blimp tethered out above Parliament Square in 2017 when he came, I think it was, from memory, Mark Todding.
I think it was 2016.
I think it was 2017 because it was after the general election.
That's right.
And Theresa May was
quick to do it.
It could have been 2018 even.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, back then, it goes back years. It's a battle which suits both bases, I think.
All right, well, listen, I'll tell you what, really, if you want to check out that Trump speech, if you haven't seen it, then search, Google it. You could possibly see it on our website or download the GBNews app and check it out from yesterday. Send us your thoughts, post your comments at gbnews.com/your say.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is now 7 minutes past midday. And as we've been discussing, President Donald Trump has caused shockwaves at the United Nations General Assembly by telling European leaders that their countries are going to hell.
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did. They repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Yes, President Trump didn't stop there as he took the opportunity to take further swipes at the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and also toughened his stance on Moscow, telling Ukraine to shoot down Russian planes if they get too close.
And even telling NATO countries they have the right to shoot down Russian planes.
Well, I think he's got a point. So, was this Donald Trump's most controversial speech yet?
Well, we're joined now by political editor Christopher Hope, live in the studio. Chris, I want to start, before we get on to sort of Sadiq Khan and migration, on defence. This is perhaps the biggest shift, maybe the biggest surprise of Donald Trump's appearance at the UN.
He's hardened his stance towards Russia. That is what's really important. He met outside on the sidelines the Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. They got on a lot better since that torturous meeting back in the Oval Office when Zelenskyy was accused of not dressing appropriately to respect the office of the President in the Oval Office by reporters there. So I think, yeah, it's a real moment here. And again, it was that question to Trump, I think, didn't say it actually from the podium in the UN General Assembly. Should NATO countries fire back if Russia goes into their airspace? He said yes. That is a huge moment, and it shows a real chilling for me, that relationship with Russia and the US.
Just to emphasise why this is so huge, Russia has been tempting NATO with its airspace, sending first drones and now reports of its manned jets going over, just clipping the edge of NATO airspace.
I think Estonia late last week is most recent, but also and Poland's been incursed on too. So that's a big issue.
But I mean, Russia is clearly trying to provoke NATO here.
Yes.
We know that wars have been started for less.
Yes.
If a NATO country shoots down a Russian plane, I mean, would Russia see that as a declaration of war?
Well, they might do, Tom. We don't know, because it would be the road to that, and that's what is so worrying. And we haven't even got the conversation about UK troops on the ground, which we had back in February at that Lancaster House summit. Will you rear its head again? I think and things move, as we know, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But it's not the only battle that's been that's rearing its head. There's now the renewed skirmish between Donald Trump and London Mayor Sadiq Khan, and we heard from yesterday from Donald Trump saying that they want to bring in Sharia law in London, and he says that Sadiq Khan is a terrible mayor, and then said a terrible, terrible mayor. Well, that man himself, Sadiq Khan, has responded just now.
Oh, there.
Brilliant. There we are. So we don't have it. But he did say, I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he's misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic. So doubling down completely, I think that's the most extreme.
Let's go through those in turn.
But he's also said that Sadiq Khan has responded saying that Trump's got a crush on me, and Farage immigration plan breaking up families, says Khan. This is in the Metro.
A crush on me.
So he's now saying that Donald Trump has a crush on him.
Right, but racist, sexist and Islamophobic.
And misogynistic.
And misogynistic. These are all very personal charges.
Yeah, very much so, and go to the heart of the man. And how that plays out, we'll see. I think, as I said, we said before, it's a kind of cost-free battle with both of these leaders playing to their bases by attacking the other side. I think that's almost understood by what Sadiq Khan is saying. But he does have a freedom, I think, as London Mayor, to say these things which you couldn't have really anyone who sits in Parliament saying without causing embarrassment to Keir Starmer.
All right. Well, listen, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Good to talk to you. Well, we're now joined by Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer.
Graham, thanks for being with us. I suppose the big question here is, what do you make of Donald Trump saying that not only Britain, but many European countries are effectively going to hell in a handcart over their attitude towards migration?
I think there are two things to say. Is that Donald Trump doesn't speak English in the way the rest of us speak it. What he's communicating regularly, whether it's about building a wall to keep refugees crossing into Texas from Mexico, the wall was never built. What he's communicating is which side of these major national and international debates he's on. And what he is highlighting is the fact that neither the European Union, the countries within the European Union, or the United Kingdom, we've not got control of our borders. And we don't know these people who are turning up without papers, arriving and trying to enter the country illegally, and then claiming asylum under international law. We have no idea who they are. And in that sense, if you can't control your borders, Trump is right. That you are eroding the very basis of being a sovereign state. If you can't control your borders, you don't know who you're letting in, and you don't control whether you deport them or not.
Well, so he's absolutely spot on. But the bit where you said he doesn't speak like the rest of us, I think that could probably be levied to Sir Keir Starmer. That is the thing about Donald Trump, that he does speak like the rest of us, which he speaks in plain English that people can understand. And he also talked about Sadiq Khan and said that he's a terrible, terrible mayor. I look at London, where you have a terrible, terrible, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Is he not right about that as well, though? London has, there's a huge crime wave. Knife crime is rife. Shoplifting is just off the scale. And Sadiq Khan doesn't say very much about it.
When I say he doesn't speak English like the rest of us, he speaks in short sentences and clearly comprehensible sentences, but they don't always bear much contact with the reality. That's what I was trying to say. He does communicate his position on things by stating things that often aren't true very clearly, but he is saying which side of the debate he's on. There are problems in London. I'm not going to get into criticising a fellow Labour representative in Sadiq. He's got a difficult job to do as Mayor of London. He's been re-elected 3 times, but it would be wrong of me to say everything that's happening in London is perfect. It's not. Some things are going the wrong way. Certainly knife crime has gone the wrong way. Parts of the economy, the nighttime economy, aren't doing as well as you expect in London at the moment. But that's
you don't need to...
Sadiq's problem, and I'm not going to criticise that.
No, but you don't need to criticise him personally, but has he done a good job in your eyes?
He's done a very good job in some ways. He's been re-elected. That's what the people in London think. In some ways, he's clearly not achieved what I guess he would want to in terms of crime and the economy. That's without doubt, and I'm sure he would agree with that in a calmer debate than Donald Trump is having. I mean, it's two pugilists having a go at each other, isn't it?
Sadiq Khan has never won sort of more than 50% of the vote in London in the first round. I think he got through with about 40% of the vote in the last election. Compare that to people like Andy Burnham, who are winning with 70% of the vote in Greater Manchester. Or in the Tees Valley, you got a similar percentage of the vote for Ben Houchen just a few years ago. The the Conservative. I mean, mayors can attract a huge level of support because they're seen as sort of fighting for their area. They can win supermajorities of the vote. And when you compare Sadiq Khan to some of these other mayors, both Conservative and Labour, around the country, his winning pluralities look very, very slim.
Oh, you're comparing apples and oranges, aren't you? London is not comparable to Greater Manchester in that sense. You can't really compare the success of the mayor of Teesside without saying his vote plummeted massively, and he only really scraped home last time, having got, I think it was 80% of the votes the first time he stood. Andy Burnham has had 3 great victories in Greater Manchester and has maintained his vote. Sadiq's won in a very different electorate. That really is an apples and oranges argument.
What I'm saying is if he was a very successful mayor, there are mayors who have been seen to be successful. When it's good times or bad times for their parties, they've been able to win. Andy Burnham's a very good example of this. There are lots of people who think he's done a very good job from all sides of the political spectrum, and he's won with big victories. You don't see that in London.
You're asking the same question in different ways. It's as an elected politician, the criterion I use is, do you get re-elected? He's been re-elected in a very different electorate than Greater Manchester or Teesside. He's done much better in terms of retaining his vote than the Conservative mayor of Teesside, who some people would say is doing a good job. Other people, including me, would say he's not. So I think you keep asking the same question. You can't really compare these.
Graham, I think you can. I think you can look at the results.
You do, but I don't.
I think you can look at the results and you can work out whether someone's doing a very good or bad job. And I find it interesting that when there was the tube strike, or the train strike even, there's very little from Sadiq Khan. But as soon as he's called a name, he's up there straight away, you know, hitting back. Look, thank you very much, Graham Stringer. He's a Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South.
Well, let's turn to the question of migration now. After Donald Trump's evisceration of Europe's migration policy still ringing in the ears of its leaders, GB News can confirm that Border Force is bracing over here for a huge surge of Channel migrants this weekend.
Yes, weather conditions are expected to improve on Friday, allowing smugglers to push out many hundreds of migrants into the Channel. Joining us now is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, I've said it time and time again, they need a wave machine halfway through to make the weather bad enough so they can't get on the dinghies in the first place.
Yeah, or pray to the weather gods. One of the above would certainly maybe make a difference as far as numbers are concerned, because that's what we've seen. It's a pattern, actually, unusually for this time of year, that we've experienced for the last month and a bit of windy weather in the Channel that has prevented the crossing. So every time we get a break in the weather, we get now very significant numbers, because the people smugglers know that it's just a small window to allow them to get across. So that's why we'll see days when more than 1,000, 1,100 will cross on a single day. And that, I think, sadly, as far as the government and many people in this country are concerned, is going to be a day or weekend in which very significant numbers will arrive just ahead of the Labour conference. Yet more pressure piled onto the Prime Minister here. We should just say as well, we've had a statement through from the Home Office with regard to another row on migration that's just reared its ugly head in the last 24 hours or so, following an exclusive access piece that ITV News did on board a returns flight with 4 national offenders who were being returned to Romania. And they filmed for the first time migrants being given these prepaid credit cards that are topped up with a significant amount of money. ITV said it was £2,000. The Home Office dispute this and say, actually, the limit is £1,500. But this is part of a scheme that's been in place for some time. The Home Office have been defending this scheme, even giving money to foreign national offenders. It's going to stick in the throat of many people, saying, why on earth should we be rewarding people who've come here and committed crimes?
Mark, if you commit a crime in this country, it's not that you're deported I suppose, why do we need to give them the money? Is it because otherwise they would refuse to be deported and this speeds up the legal process? I mean, what is the justification for this money?
The following statement might shed a little light on the government's thinking. They said, "We understand that the public does not want to see financial handouts to individuals who've no legal right to remain in the UK. However, the reality is that offering incentives for voluntary departure is significantly more cost-effective than detaining individuals or them remaining in the UK while they pursue lengthy legal challenges against removal." And they point out the approach has been in place since 2006 and is one adopted by governments around the world due to its practicality and efficiency. So yes, while there may be significant, it may be significantly cost-effective. Is it right? Is it right that someone who comes here and commits criminal offence is jailed for that? And we're talking rapists, murderers, other serious offenders that return to their home country with £1,500 on a credit card to boot.
This is actually a comedy now. This has become turning into an absolute comedy. That people who have done bad things, broken into the country, been put in jail, we have to bribe them to leave. It is ridiculous.
Right,
to be thrown out of the country.
You can see why they've arrived at this, though, because obviously on a spreadsheet, say £15,000 on an expensive legal case versus £1,500 on getting them out voluntarily, fine. But why can't they think outside this binary and say, hang on, we could change the law to make it harder for these people to actually bring an appeal in the first place?
I wouldn't even tolerate it to the length it's been tolerated. It wouldn't have even got this far. Thank you very much, Mark White. Really good to talk to you. Right, joining us now is Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, welcome to the programme.
Hi, Nana. Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Now, Aisha, talk to me about this. Are we being ridiculous in the way we are pandering to people who have literally broken into this country? And especially if they break the law, we then have this softly approach. In the countries that they have come from, if they break the law in that manner, they would not receive the generosity that they get when they're here.
Well, Nana, I've always said this, that with the system we have just isn't working. It's actually encouraging more people to try to break into the country, as you've just said. And we can talk about tackling the human trafficking gangs, we can talk about all these things, but ultimately what we need is a better system that will actually take people away from going down the illegal route and try to go down the legal route. Whether or not they actually manage to succeed is another question completely. But right now, because people feel there's no other option for them and this is the only way they're going to get here, that's what they're doing. And I think if we had something where we said, actually, look, make an application properly, put your documents in, pay the fees, and let's see what happens, I think that would be a lot better. And that has worked in the past. I think since we've started to get rid of all these legal routes, this is why we're seeing this massive surge in illegal immigration over the last 10 years or so.
Aisha, I do understand the point. And there are, I am sure, some legitimate refugees amongst the many economic migrants that we're seeing crossing the channel. One of the problems, though, is that under the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees, the definition of a refugee is so broad that had you developed a sort of general safe and legal route, which I think is what you're sort of arguing for here, rather than the specific ones we have for the disasters around the world, like Ukraine, Hong Kong, for a time Afghanistan. If we had a general route, I mean, how would that be limited? And if it's not limited, how would that stop the problem of a huge amount of migration? Because there are hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of people around the world who would qualify under the 51 terms to be able to seek asylum.
Absolutely. Look, Tom, you made a good point. And if you've got a good system in place, you're going to have trained people, civil servants, officers, whatever you want to call them, to look at the documentation, to look at the paperwork, and to make a decision. Right now, we don't have any control over who is entering the country, and as such, this is. I mean, look, you've seen we've had all these kind of riots in Epping and so on, and people are sick and tired of this. They want to know who's coming into the country and what we're doing about it, and it's raising a lot of ill feeling, bad feeling towards the government, not just obviously the Labour Party, but the Labour government, but the previous government as well, just could not get a handle on this. And I think the only way we're going to do it is actually sit down, create a brand new system and implement that. And again, you've said, Tom, it's such a broad description of the categories that people will be entitled to. But again, at least we would have control over people coming and going, because we would have the power to veto or say yes. But right now, we have none of that whatsoever. So at least it would not be what we have right now.
Isn't the real problem that once they're here, we cannot get rid of them? Like, you literally cannot get rid of anyone. Even if they're a criminal, paedophile, rapist or whatever, eventually we are paying for legal challenge after legal challenge after legal challenge. I just don't see why the British public should pay anything for people who've come to this country, A, illegally, and then be medical cover, medical care, dentistry, everything when they come here in that manner. It's just shocking.
Well, Nana, you know, Shabana Mahmood, since she's become the Home Secretary, has made a really big part of her strategy. This is it, basically, endless appeals and so on, and obviously the cost to the taxpayers as well. She's already, under her watch, we've already managed to deport 4 people back. Wow. Under the one in, one out. And obviously you're going to say that's not enough. It's ridiculous. Compared to the hundreds of thousands of people that are in the system waiting to have their cases heard. So, yes, we're going to see. But look, you know, Shabana's determined to get a good, strong grip on this, and I have faith in her. Okay. And let's just see the next few months how they play out. And obviously the weather's changing as well.
Yeah,
all right,
let's hope it rises above
Thank
4.
you very much, Aisha. Really good to talk to you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Nana.
Cheers. Well, before we move on, let's return to that breaking news that the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has responded to the latest attack from Donald Trump. That was made yesterday, of course, at the UN General Assembly. Their ongoing feud is continuing. This is what the Mayor had to say today.
I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
You see, he's got all the time in the world to shout out names and call people stuff. When there's something really happening, like knife crime, Sadiq, how about some of that? Burglaries. How about shoplifting? Silence. Even when there was a train strike, we had very, very little from him. And the police, what are you going to do about the police in London, the city that you're supposed to be in charge of, Sadiq? But no, he's got time to have a go about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has called him a nasty, terrible, terrible mayor, which he, in my view, is, given the fact that crime and everything has increased on his watch.
Well, we'll have to get more on that throughout the programme. I'm sure that will not be the last in this tit-for-tat spat that continues to roll on and on. But it is time for the Great British Giveaway now. Plenty of time for you to become our biggest winner to date. That's a package worth over £104,000, a motorhome and 30,000 quid in tax-free cash. Here's how to get it.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Right. Well, it has emerged that the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff was advised to describe over £700,000 in hidden donations as an admin error.
This looks very suspicious indeed. It was a leaked email from a senior Labour lawyer to Morgan McSweeney, that's the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, where he was advised that if he could not answer questions over the money, he should put them down as an admin error instead.
We're joined now by GBNews' political correspondent, Olivia Utley. So, Olivia, just explain what exactly has happened.
Well, it all looks very shady. Essentially what happened is Morgan McSweeney, who is now the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, but before he was the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, he ran a think tank called Labour Together. Now, that think tank was instrumental in helping Keir Starmer win his leadership bid for the Labour Party back in 2020. Now, the Labour Together movement accepted £740,000 worth of donations, which indirectly helped to get Starmer into his position as Labour leader. And in fact, Morgan McSweeney and Labour Together boasted that their think tank helped to get Keir Starmer into his leadership position. And Morgan McSweeney, as the head, failed to disclose these donations. Now, that is against all of the rules. And what makes it particularly damning is that Morgan McSweeney was expressly told that it was against all of the rules. In 2017, he was told by lawyers that any donation over £1,500 had to be reported to the Electoral Commission. And in the months and years after that, immediately after that, Morgan McSweeney did indeed report all donations of more than £1,500. So there is a precedent for him reporting it. He knew that he had to report it. But in this case, those £740,000 worth of donations went unreported. Now, the Labour lawyer who is involved in the case now, an email has emerged saying that there is no fair way to explain why these donations weren't reported, given that McSweeney was told directly in 2017 that they should be reported. And so the lawyer suggested that it should all be put down to an admin error, essentially to find a way out of it. So it's all looking very, very tricky for the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff.
Were they like lots of little donations, or was there big donations? Or...
Lots of donations, we think, not one huge £740,000 worth donation, but we don't know the size of each of the donations. But the fact that McSweeney didn't report this, the Labour Together think tank has already been fined for breaches of Electoral Commission law, but these are just new emails, a bigger sum of money than we knew about before, and the Conservatives are making a really big deal of this.
And let's not forget how big a scandal so-called coordinated spending has been in the past in electoral law in this country. People have been fined enormous amounts of money, huge political scandals have been brought about, because if you have two organisations or more that are campaigning in a way that is coordinated, that has to be treated as one organisation. Otherwise, you're just doubling the amount of spending limits. Spending limits mean nothing if you have coordinated spending across different groups. And I think Labour Together was doing all of this polling, very expensive research work that then directly helped Keir Starmer be able to craft a message, which we know he then later U-turned on in order to win over the Labour selectorate.
So what will happen then? What is the next step then for this?
Well, we don't know yet. I think will Morgan McSweeney eventually, if he doesn't have to resign, technically, Labour Together will be fined. That's what happens immediately. Morgan McSweeney probably won't immediately have to lose his position, but eventually the question is does it pass the sniff test? And in the wake of all these other scandals, Peter Mandelson having to resign just a few weeks ago, the Deputy Prime Minister having to resign a few weeks before that, Keir Starmer is going to be very, very wary of more political scandals, particularly, of course, as he came into office promising that he would be the person who cleaned up politics, that politics would tread more lightly on people's lives. Not treading lightly on my life, but I'm not sure he was talking about a political correspondent. But I think Keir Starmer will be very wary of having to sack Morgan McSweeney, but he'll also be terrified of losing him.
But he will have known this. At the point at which he was talking about Boris Johnson, sleaze, money, all the rest of it, he will have known that the only reason he became the leader of the Labour Party is apparently breaching all of these spending rules.
And I think that's what's really awkward for Keir Starmer, because at the moment the spotlight is on Morgan McSweeney. Morgan McSweeney is the closest advisor to Keir Starmer. The spotlight soon will be on Keir Starmer.
All right, Olivia Utley, thank you very much. Now, a spokesperson for Labour Together said Labour Together proactively raised concerns about its own reporting of donations to the Electoral Commission in 2020. Investigation with which Labour Together fully cooperated was completed in 2021. The outcome was made public.
And a spokesperson for the Electoral Commission said that they had thoroughly investigated the late reporting of donations by Labour Together in 2021, adding, "We are satisfied that the evidence proved beyond reasonable doubt that failures by the association occurred without reasonable excuse. Offences were determined and they were sanctioned accordingly.
Right, let's get your latest news headlines in just a moment. But this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on the show.
Yes, Nigel Farage is claiming that migrants are stealing and eating swans from royal parks in Britain as he highlights major cultural differences being imported due to mass migration. But what's the truth?
But after the break, Britain is forecast to see the highest rate of inflation of any of the G7 advanced economies this year. Stay tuned to find out what this means to the value of the pennies in your pocket. All of that and much more after the news.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 12:30, the top story: a 40-year-old man has been arrested in West Sussex after a cyber attack caused days of disruption at airports, including Heathrow. Airlines are still checking in passengers with pen and paper as the baggage software provider rebuilds the systems. Energy watchdog Ofgem will force suppliers to offer at least one tariff with lower standing charges from January, but warns bills won't necessarily fall. Campaigners call it only a small step, as charges remain unfair for low energy users. Donald Trump has said Ukraine can now win back all its original borders, a sharp U-turn after talks with President Zelenskyy. The US president branded Russia a paper tiger as NATO vowed to hit back at airspace incursions. Doctors in London say Huntington's, one of the cruelest brain diseases, has been successfully treated for the first time. A new gene therapy slowed the condition by 75%, giving patients decades more good quality life. The UK's AI fraud buster has clawed back nearly £500 million in just a year, much of it lost during COVID. Ministers say the savings will fund nurses, teachers and police. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with the news at 1.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain, 37 minutes after midday. Now, Britain is facing the highest level of inflation in any major advanced economy this year.
Oh, good. Yes, the OECD predicts the UK will face an annual rate of inflation of 3.5% by the end of the year, up from 2.5% last year. Bad news for the pennies in our pockets, of course. This means households will face a significant rise in the cost of living amid rising prices in shops and increasing energy bills.
Well, joining us now is City Editor at City AM, Simon Hunt. Simon, thank you very much for joining us. OK, so what is driving this inflation? Of course, prices rising, wages lagging behind. What's driving it?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, some pretty unflattering prognostications about the future of the UK economy from the OECD this week. As you mentioned, they said inflation is at 3.5% this year, which will make it the highest among the G7. They also mentioned that growth is down, will fall from 1.4% this year to 1% next year, which will also mean that the UK will lag behind our G7 peers, the US, Canada and Germany. As to the causes, wage inflation is a big part of that. We've seen a rise in average wages in the UK, but also rising taxes in the form of employer taxes early this year have also pushed up prices. The OECD also talks about a fall in job vacancies in the UK that's come about as a result of that. And they also warn that uncertainty around fiscal policy in the UK is also one of the causes to our slowdown in economic growth, because businesses are holding off over their investment decisions because they don't know how they're going to be taxed in the future.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Rachel Reeves always leaves these yawning gaps between her budgets. We could have had the budget by now. We could have had an early budget in the autumn. We're having it at the end of November. Well, meanwhile, all that's happening is everyone in every boardroom in the country is just wondering what will be taxed next. I suppose it's the same problem of her first budget when you had that long summer of everyone waiting to see where the taxes would fall. I mean, she's committing that same mistake twice.
Absolutely, yeah, that seems to be how it is. We'll have an early Christmas present this year in the form of tens of billions in extra tax hikes launched just a few weeks before Christmas. That comes amid borrowing costs in the UK reaching a 27-year high, putting us the highest in the G7.
Oh, again.
And the Institute for Government this week raised their concerns about what they described as a sticking plaster approach to fiscal policy in the UK. That is to say, the Chancellor announces a small number of tax rises that they think will get them over the line for a few months. And then within a few months, there is speculation about more tax rises, even though last year the government said this was a one-and-done tax-raising policy that they announced earlier this year.
Does the city have any confidence in Rachel Reeves? Because looking at it, she inherited a very low inflation. There were obviously things coming down the line anyway. However, she has made some moves that have exacerbated the situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly concerns over the rate of tax rises that are coming down the line. There are expectations that at least £20 billion worth of tax rises are coming. As to confidence in the Treasury, I mean, certainly we saw bond yields rise higher when there were concerns that Rachel Reeves might make an abrupt departure from number 11. So I don't think there's anyone waiting in the wings that the bond markets would necessarily cheer either. But yeah, I think there is concern about the way that fiscal policy is being handled in the UK, and it's incredibly difficult for the Chancellor to raise the money that she seeks to raise when Labour have ruled out what they call raising taxes on working people, i.e. raising things like income taxes.
OK.
Which they should really do, I think.
Really?
Well, I think just a little bit.
They could cut some
if you take a little bit off everyone rather than a load of people in little bits like that.
No, I see the logic. But Simon Hunt of City AM, thanks indeed. Thanks for coming in and explaining. At least we're top of the leaderboard for something.
Yes.
Inflation, borrowing costs, not growth. Oh, well.
And also self-sabotage. That's net zero. Right, 42 minutes after midday. Andy Burnham says that Labour must roll back Thatcherism as Keir Starmer faces make-or-break party conference in the Greater Manchester Mayor pitched alerts to the left in an interview backing a huge nationalisation of housing, energy, water and rail to roll back in the 1980s. I don't know what that meant.
Well, joining us now is the editor-in-chief of the New Statesman, Tom McTague. Tom, thanks for joining us. This is a very different Andy Burnham from the Andy Burnham who pitched to be Labour leader in 2010, giving interviews to the Sun newspaper and sort of presenting himself as a candidate of the right. He's done a complete volte-face and is now presenting him as a candidate of the left. Is this all about the leadership?
Well, I mean, I think if you talk to Andy, he would say that that's not the case, obviously, that he would say that over his career, he's had different phases of his career. And in his telling, he was loyal to the manager, you know, that he tried to knuckle down and get on board, whether it was with Tony Blair when he first came into government, then Gordon Brown, and then he tried to be a team player under the different leaders that came. But you're right to point out that there has certainly been a journey, we could say, in Andy Burnham's politics over the years, from his leadership, his first leadership pitch, when you mentioned, to his second one in 2015, and who knows, potentially another one down the line. Now, he would say, and he told me in the interview that is in this week's magazine, that what has really affected him is his mayoralty in Manchester, where he has essentially taken into public control the buses there. And for him, this is the key moment where he has been allowed to be him for the first time because he is in charge rather than sort of working for another leader. Mm-hmm. And he thinks that this taking into public control the buses is a model that he should apply, or the country should apply, to water or other utilities, other essentials. And the big one, as you mentioned, is housing. And he thinks the country took a major wrong turn in the 1980s.
You see, I don't disagree with him, even though some people might call me right-wing, that the utilities and water and things like that are vital resources should not be given to private enterprises. We've seen that they've literally just screwed us all over, these private enterprises, and now we're paying for it. But in your view, do you think that Andy Burnham... Is it even possible for Andy Burnham to go for the leadership, seeing as there are so many hurdles in his way?
Yeah, it's interesting to take both of your points there, both of your questions. You know, I think what is an interesting political reality now is that even Reform are talking in this kind of language about a failure of the privatised utilities and a clear sort of popular discontent with how things are running. And what Burnham talks about as well with housing is a sense that the loss of control is a part of the state's loss of fiscal control, in that we don't have control over the cost that we are, or the subsidised cost of housing, because we don't have enough council houses anymore. So that's sort of point one. And on your second question about the Labour leadership, now this is particularly difficult, right? This is about for him to run for Labour leader, he has to be an MP. He's not currently an MP. How does he become an MP? He would have to have a former colleague, stand down, and for him to win the nomination. Now, there are a couple of more hurdles for him there. To get the nomination, he would have to be selected. Now, the current control of who gets selected is held quite tightly.
It's a subcommittee of the NEC, isn't it, who are all quite on the right of the Labour Party. We're going to have to leave it there, Tom, but I mean, honestly, we could talk to you for so much longer. It's a fascinating piece. Everything from his love of place to dress sense to football. A more authentic Keir Starmer, some people might say. But Tom McTague, thanks indeed for joining us here on Good Afternoon Britain.
Right, yes, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, Nigel Farage is claiming that migrants are stealing and eating swans from royal parks in Britain, as he highlights major cultural differences being imported due to mass migration. But what's the truth?
But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Western and central parts of Europe will start to see any heavy downpours easing away, though some scattered showers will still remain. That's not so much the case across the Canary Islands, Madeira, also Spain and Portugal. Mostly settled here, largely dry, plenty of sunny spells. But across France, even into parts of Germany, we could still see some isolated showers remain. But through Italy, the Adriatic coastline and also parts of Greece remaining settled, dry with sunny spells, though we could start to see more showers over the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any low cloud, mist or fog clearing quite readily through the course of the morning, leaving a mostly dry day with sunny spells and temperatures around about average for the time of year, so still feeling rather chilly in the brisk breeze. But the reason for the dry settle conditions is all thanks to high pressure, and it stops this front moving too far inland, though we could just start to see more cloud push into the far northwest of Scotland later. Also a fair amount of cloud across northern and central parts of England, a chance this could produce the odd light shower, but for most a dry day with sunny spells, temperatures around about average, so just pushing into 17, possibly 18, 19 degrees across parts of the southeast, but around the mid-teens elsewhere. Now, it could be fairly breezy for a time, particularly across East Anglian coasts, parts of Sussex and Kent, but those winds will largely ease away through the course of the evening, remaining mostly dry and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. A mix of cloud and also some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, and fairly similar conditions across Scotland too, though once again it could be fairly breezy across parts of the northwest, some more clouds starting to edge its way into far western coasts of Scotland. But otherwise it should remain dry through the overnight period, but with fairly light winds and clear skies, it's likely to be another chilly night. Some localised frost, particularly in western areas, and also a chance once again we could see some low cloud and mist and fog as we head our way towards dawn. Less so across parts of the southeast, some more cloud pushing in here, so temperatures won't get quite as chilly, but many towns and cities dropping to around the mid to high single figures. So it is going to be a fairly chilly start once again, but any mist or fog clearing quite quickly through the course of the morning, and it should be a fairly similar day, remaining mostly dry. Less chance of some showers, though a chance of some very light rain just pushing it into the far northwest. Still quite breezy here at times too. Fairly similar temperatures to what we'll see this afternoon, but we could just push into 20 degrees Celsius across the southeast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A720, motorists heading eastbound between Gilmerton Junction and Sheriff Hall roundabout should be cautious due to a broken down vehicle in the middle lane. The M62 eastbound between Junction 19 and Junction 20 also has a broken down vehicle causing disruptions. Further delays are noted in Middlesbrough, where the southbound exit slip from the A19 to the A174 has a lane closure due to a vehicle issue. Normal traffic conditions are expected to resume by 1:11 this afternoon. On the trains, both Great Western Railway and London North Western Railway are facing disruptions on several routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is just gone past 10 to 1. But here's an interesting one for you.
Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has claimed that migrants are stealing and eating swans from royal parks. Doesn't this remind you of something a little while back?
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
A memorable moment from the US presidential debates last year. But here in this country, of course, Nigel Farage is talking about swans. We should say that the Royal Parks charity that runs these parks say that there's no evidence of swans being killed and eaten across London parks. But we've done a little bit of research and we found that there has been some reputable reporting of swans being taken and in some cases eaten. Let's have a look. Well, this is Time magazine, which showed that someone is kidnapping and eating Britain's swans. This was a few years ago, but they reported majestic swans are disappearing from a historic British waterway. What else do we have here? There's also been a report of a queen swan being killed, barbecued, eaten and dumped on a riverbank. The Evening Standard reported this several years ago, accompanied by a gruesome picture of the charred swan being eaten. What's next? Well, we can see again the Evening Standard reported a few years ago, this is back in 2012, immigrant was cooking swan amid bird bodies. Some evidence here in a reputable newspaper that a migrant was eating a swan, even a picture there of the migrant in his tent. And also what we've found is the Telegraph reporting a police hunt for the swan killers. Fears that the birds are being stolen to eat. Those are fears from the police, as reported in the Telegraph. So there are some instances here. This isn't Nigel Farage conjuring this from the figment of his imagination. But interestingly, Nana, there are some videos online too.
Yes, there are, but we couldn't 100% verify exactly, whether they were real or not. It could have been AI generated, so that is the thing. And obviously some of those reports were not necessarily in royal parks. And again, but that just kind of shows that he wasn't fabricating. There was an incident of an immigrant eating a swan. I don't know where that was, though.
There are some fairly shocking videos of people sort of running geese and swans through flats, and one of a documentary that we couldn't quite find the provenance of, where an RSPCA official found swan feathers in a bin. And something being cooked in a home. Really quite shocking stuff.
All right, but there's no verification as to who was eating them and who was cooking them. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Stay with us. Do not go anywhere. I love that. They're quite incredible. I listened to that actually live on LBC.
It's just an iconic moment, isn't it? Well, much more after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any low cloud, mist or fog clearing quite readily through the course of the morning, leaving a mostly dry day with sunny spells and temperatures around about average for the time of year, so still feeling rather chilly in the brisk breeze. But the reason for the dry settle conditions is all thanks to high pressure, and it stops this front moving too far inland, though we could just start to see more cloud push into the far northwest of Scotland later. Also a fair amount of cloud across northern and central parts of England, a chance this could produce the odd light shower, but for most, a dry day with sunny spells, temperatures around about average, so just pushing into 17, possibly 18, 19 degrees across parts of the southeast, but around the mid-teens elsewhere. Now, it could be fairly breezy for a time, particularly across East Anglian coasts, parts of Sussex and Kent, but those winds will largely ease away through the course of the evening, remaining mostly dry and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. A mix of cloud and also some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, and fairly similar conditions across Scotland too, though once again it could be fairly breezy across parts of the northwest, some more cloud starting to edge its way into far western coasts of Scotland, but otherwise it should remain dry through the overnight period, but with fairly light winds and clear skies, it's likely to be another chilly night. Some localised frost, particularly in western areas, and also a chance once again we could see some low cloud and mist and fog as we head our way towards dawn. Less so across parts of the southeast, some more cloud pushing in here, so temperatures won't get quite as chilly, but many towns and cities dropping to around the mid to high single figures. So it is going to be a fairly chilly start once again, but any mist or fog clearing quite quickly through the course of the morning, and it should be a fairly similar day, remaining mostly dry. Less chance of some showers, though a chance of some very light rain just pushing it into the far northwest. Still quite breezy here at times too. Fairly similar temperatures to what we'll see this afternoon, but we could just push into 20 degrees Celsius across the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The cost of parking, it's increased by, wait for it, 500%.
And they've done that overnight without consultation, right?
Yeah.
So it now costs £4.85 an hour, right? And what's that going to do? It's going to stop people visiting. And it's not easy to get around York, I have to say. One road in, one road out type thing, congestion around the place. Yes, there's car parking spaces, but goodness me, I mean, this is obviously very, very controversial, and these are the sort of taxes, indirect taxes, that come on all of us. It's now going to cost us so much money just to get there, just to see there. Tell us more.
That's right, Eamon, and the City of York Council have introduced this to try and reduce congestion, to try and get more people on buses, more people cycling to go shopping. But of course, that infrastructure hasn't been put in place. There's not been extra buses put on. There's not been extra bike racks for people to park. And certainly when you're doing a shop, a lot of the shops here are greengrocers, butchers. How are you going to carry all that on a bike? I'd like to introduce you to Karen now. She's just come to pay for parking, expecting that it was going to be 80p. How do you feel when you've just seen this price rise today?
I am really annoyed. I've come out with enough money to pay basically for 2 hours. I'm having my hair done, which then, knowing now that this is, say, triple what it would have been, then my online payment isn't working. So I'm effectively not able to pay, which is really, really, really annoying.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 1 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th of September. I'm Nana Akua.
And I'm Tom Harwood.
I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
London Mayor Sadiq Khan has hit out at President Trump, labelling him racist, sexist and misogynistic. The row rumbles on.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Well, that was just one of the bold claims made by Donald Trump as he addressed the United Nations in an astonishing hour-long speech full of challenges for European leaders.
Donald Trump tells Ukraine, take back your land and go further. We'll be hearing from Zelenskyy in his programme later.
Red Day warning. Experts are forecasting major small boat migrant crossings days from this Friday. GB News can confirm border forces bracing for a huge surge this weekend, just in time for the Labour Party's annual conference.
Yes, so Keir Starmer just can't catch a break, can he? We're expecting very significant numbers arriving over the Channel this weekend.
And the United States President suffered a number of awkward tech difficulties during his UN visit, raising fears of sabotage.
A Muslim man who attacked a protester burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London with a knife has been spared jail. The protester he attacked.
Many lives were changed on that terrible day, including countless members of this school community. We will always be here to support you.
Yes, the Princess and Prince of Wales have visited Southport to meet the school friends and families of those victims from last year's horrendous attack.
Yeah, it's been a very, very busy moment in British politics and global politics indeed. That meeting at the UN I thought was most interesting.
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing live. 57 minutes Donald Trump took, even though he was only allowed 15. The previous time he'd been there, in his first time being president, they were laughing and mocking him, but obviously there was no laughing now, because he said, we've got the hottest country on the planet, and he's right.
I don't know, Equatorial Guinea? Hotter? No? Okay.
Very good, darling, very good.
But of course, Chris, you've been to some of these UN UNGA, they're called, the UN General Assembly meetings. Do you think that Donald Trump commands a greater respect now because he won his election victory, he's got more total control of the most powerful economy in the world?
He does, and of course remember the sniggering at the back when he emerged back in as a new president back in 2016, 2017, and made claims about his leadership there, which was mocked by world leaders. Well, they weren't mocking yesterday, they weren't laughing now, to misquote Nigel Farage about Brexit back in the day in the European Parliament. They're taking very, very seriously. And those remarks there, I think, on Truth Social about his speech there about Ukraine. Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, he said, not NATO, European Union, that's interesting, by the way, that means maybe not America, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form and maybe go further. President Zelenskyy can take the fight to the paper tiger, Russia. We're hearing from President Zelenskyy during your programme, probably after 2 o'clock moment. So let's hear what he says there. But a real moment here, and things change very quickly. He also said, not from the podium, that NATO countries should be able to shoot down Russian fighters if they get into their airspace.
It's interesting that he called Russia a paper tiger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A big step compared to where he was before. Perhaps he thinks the peace effort's failed, or he needs to do a big, bold act to sort of shock Vladimir Putin to get back round that table. But much more to come on all of these stories. Of course, do get your views and comments in. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get involved. Now it's the news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story this lunchtime. A man in his 40s has been arrested in West Sussex over a cyber attack that has caused days of chaos at various European airports, including Heathrow in London. The National Crime Agency says the attack targeted firm Collins Aerospace, whose check-in and baggage software has been offline since Friday. Hundreds of flights have faced delays, with some airports forced to process passengers using pen and paper. The National Crime Agency says the attack targeted the US firm Collins Aerospace and hundreds of flights facing delays. Officials say ransomware was deployed as the firm scrambled to rebuild its system and urges airlines to prepare for at least another week of disruption. The suspect has since been bailed as the investigation continues. A leaked Labour document has shown Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff was told to describe £700,000 of undeclared donations as an admin error. The advice came from the party's lawyer in 2021 after the elections watchdog said the funds should have been reported. The Conservatives are now demanding an investigation, accusing the Prime Minister of failing to declare support from Labour Together. The think tank, once led by Morgan McSweeney, was fined for more than 20 breaches. But earlier today, Senior Minister Pat McFadden told us the issue was, he says, dealt with years ago and insists McSweeney will remain in post.
I'm not surprised that political opponents are trying to attack Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff at Number 10. He's very effective. He was a big part of Labour's election victory last year. So I'm not surprised they're attacking him. But the Electoral Commission's job is to police all these things, and they said they looked into it some years ago.
Donald Trump has stunned allies with a dramatic shift on Ukraine, saying Kyiv can win all of Ukraine back in its original form. In a post on Truth Social, the US president said Russia is a paper tiger in deep economic trouble. He also urged Europe and NATO to back Ukraine's push. Well, those comments came after talks with Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the UN, who called it a big shift and welcomed US security guarantees after the war. Trump had previously warned Ukraine might need to give up land, but now says maybe even go further than that. It follows a series of Russian airspace violations condemned by NATO as escalatory and dangerous. And staying with news on Donald Trump, Sir Sadiq Khan has branded him racist, sexist and Islamophobic after the US president claims the mayor wants London to go to Sharia law.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that.
Well, Sir Sadiq has hit back, saying he has, quote, squatters' rights in Mr Trump's head and is thankful for record numbers of American visitors. Labour has dismissed the attack, saying the president was misreading London, stressing it remains a global hub of law, culture and creativity. However, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has backed Trump's concerns, saying Sharia is an issue for London, but not an overwhelming one.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law, but you're in a different country. You can't do that.
Such a significant story, we thought we'd share it with you twice. In other news, Ofgem has confirmed energy suppliers must offer at least one tariff with lower standing charges from January, though the fixed costs won't be scrapped entirely. The regulator says the move will give households more choice on how they pay by shifting some of the daily fee into unit rates. It follows consumer pressure to reform the charges, which apply regardless of how much energy people use. Campaigners say the change is only a small step forward, as bills are still set to rise by 2% in October. And doctors in London say Huntington's, one of the cruelest brain diseases, has been successfully treated for the first time. A new gene therapy slowed the condition by 75%, giving patients decades more good quality life. One trial patient has even returned to work. Those are your lunchtime headlines. Next, let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here are those markets for you. The pound will buy you $1.3477 and €1.1454 euros. The price of gold is £2,794 and 32 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,211 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes past 1, and a war of words has broken out between the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and Donald Trump, the leader of the free world. It all stemmed from the United Nations General Assembly yesterday, where Donald Trump made some choice attacks on Sadiq Khan. This feud has continued today, of course, but it all comes, of course, after that UN hour-long speech from President Trump.
Right, our political editor Christopher Hope has the latest. Christopher, so some people may not have seen the UN speech that President Trump's made, so you just fill us in and what happened with what he said about Mayor Khan.
Yes, so every year the UN General Assembly meets in New York. Every world leader gets a chance to speak if they want to. Our leader is not going there this year, Sir Keir Starmer. He's sending David Lammy. He'll be on Friday when the parties moved on. The big leaders speak at the start. France's Emmanuel Macron was there yesterday declaring France's recognition of Palestine as an independent state. So there we have it. Normally they speak for a quarter of an hour, but this is Donald Trump. He spoke for nearly an hour, 4 times as long as he should do. The light went on, he ignored the light and kept talking about everything from green energy, which he attacked, of course, to Sadiq Khan, of course, the London mayor. He said he looks at London and says, where you have a terrible mayor, a terrible, terrible mayor. It's been changed, it's been so changed. He said, without evidence, they want to go to Sharia law. That is contested, of course, by Sadiq Khan. He said in the past moments, I think President Trump has shown he's racist, he's sexist, he's misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic. So interesting, I think, that he's pushing back there. Again, it's a kind of, it's not, it's a risk-free battle between Donald Trump and Sadiq Khan. It's not going to threaten the special relationship. It adds to the war of words going back many years between the two men.
I think we've got a little clip of this interview, just what Sadiq Khan has to say about Donald Trump. Should we have a listen?
I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
Well, that probably won't be the last of the words in this ongoing tit-for-tat. We await Donald Trump's...
Sadiq Khan wants to get involved. He won't damage a special relationship. You can't have any person in Parliament doing it. That would make Keir Starmer cross. It's kind of allowed to happen. He's voicing the concern of the left. Far bigger news, though, is what happened on Ukraine. This is extraordinary. President Trump said that President Zelenskyy, Ukraine, can take the fight to the paper tiger, Russia. He says take back all of Ukraine territories and go even further than that. He says Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back into original form. He talks about financial support of Russia, of Europe, and in particular NATO. The original borders can be restored. That is extraordinary. And off camera, but to journalists away from the hall, he said that the NATO countries should be able to take out Russian fighters that incur on NATO airspace. It's happened recently in Poland and Estonia. That is a big move forward of where he was. That will have an echo around the world.
Yeah,
we're hearing from Zelenskyy within the next hour, so I'll bring it to you as soon as we get it.
I mean, it does seem that this is perhaps the most significant shift in position from Donald Trump of any issue since the time that he took back the presidency. But Chris Hope, thanks for the very latest there. We'll speak to you again, of course, later in the programme.
All right, well, something else Donald Trump said yesterday was NATO should shoot down Russian jets which violate NATO airspace. Joining us now is a former British Army spokesperson, Major Mike Shearer. Now, Mike, to me, it seems pretty obvious that's what I would do. If this is supposed to be your peacekeeping force, if some alien force enters into your airspace, they have trespassed on the land that they're not meant to trespass on, you destroy them and you teach them that that is not acceptable. He's right, isn't he?
Yeah, 100% right, Nana. I mean, I said this 4 days ago, so I beat Trump to it on GB News when I was quizzed about this. And there is precedent to this. I mean, in 1960, it was America's U-2 spy plane that flew over Russia
and the Russians downed that plane. Fortunately,
but Mike, there is a significant difference here, is there not? The U-2 spy plane was unmanned.
No, it wasn't. It had a pilot. He was able to break free of it, fortunately. He was held captive for quite a period of time, but was eventually returned to the States. But more recently in Turkey, now Turkey, another NATO country, the Russians made an incursion for just 17 seconds, and the Turkish Air Force downed that jet. So, you know, these are the rules of engagement. If you're in someone else's airspace, then you have the right to take them down. And I think that NATO needs to make that absolutely clear. I think the Secretary General of NATO has been a little bit wishy-washy about this, saying that he would be looking for the intent of those aircraft. He needs to be much more robust.
Well, so people are saying, though, that if they do that, then that would be the start of World War III. Which I think is, again, you're making out that if you respond in the normal way of conflict, that suddenly you'll start a world war. Isn't that what you're meant to do to make sure that the war doesn't escalate?
Exactly right. You know, diplomacy is reinforced with force. And, you know, people have got to play by the rules. There are well-defined borders for the countries and their airspace. And Russia knows this. They are pressing to test the resilience of the NATO boundaries to see what it can get away with. And, you know, we've looked at before, what is it that Russia wants? What does Putin want? It isn't just Ukraine. And that's why he's testing other parts of the NATO boundaries. He wants to recoup and reinvent, if you like, an imperial Russia and bring back those Baltic states and others. Where will he stop? Who knows? But we need to be much more robust right now.
Now, the reason why Putin has been sort of testing the airspace, we've seen drones go across Poland, planes go across Finland, we've seen the Estonian incursion as well. Is Putin actually interested in taking these? I mean, he can't even take half of Ukraine.
Well, look, he's testing. You're right. I mean, in Ukraine, I think that the advances made in Ukraine by Russia are slower than that of the trench warfare at the Battle of the Somme. However, there are people being injured and killed on a daily basis, both soldiers and civilians alike. He has a plan, and you can read his playbook. You know, if we look back through these through Russia over the last 103 years, they have invaded 22 countries, with the longest period of stability being 16 years. We know what he's after. We just need to put a stop to it. Yeah, and you know, it was very good to hear Donald Trump really lean in quite hard with words. We now need him to lean in a bit further with hardware and help Ukraine out.
But he did say to the European countries that are assisting in this war, in supporting Ukraine, that they need to stop buying Russian oil and gas because they're paying for their own war. And then America will be prepared to step in. He's got an absolute point there.
100% is a point. Look, in about the last 15, 16, 17 months, Russia has upped their spend on defense by 40%. They have spent more on their war effort than all of Europe has in helping Ukraine. And the two sticky countries there right now are Hungary and Slovakia. And the EU and indeed NATO, because they're members of both those organizations, need to be very robust with them and sort them out.
Yeah. All right, Major Mike Shearer, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, it is Donald Trump making all of the news today because his evisceration of Europe's migration policies is still ringing in the ears of its leaders. And today, GB News can confirm our own border force is bracing for a huge surge of Channel migrants this very weekend.
Yes, weather conditions are expected to improve on Friday, allowing people smugglers to push out many hundreds of migrants into the Channel. So joining us now is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, so what can we expect this weekend? Why are we expecting this upsurge of crossings?
Well, it's just all weather related, as of course we know, because we talk constantly about how the weather is really the only determinant factor that makes any difference to the numbers crossing the Channel. We've had unseasonably bad weather in the Channel in terms of the winds. It's not that it's been blowing a massive gale with huge thunderstorms and the like, but just the winds above about 15 miles an hour in the Channel are just not passable for these flimsy boats because they pack people onto them and you get any kind of wave action that is over a metre or two, and that can buckle these boats. They can double up on themselves. People then get tossed into the water, and then we see mass-scale tragedy. So that's why we don't see, by and large, these boats coming out in adverse weather conditions. Things are about to change after a week of bad weather come Friday, and we'll have a run of good weather for a few days, which is going to mean that we'll see very significant numbers coming just in time for the Labour Party conference.
Oh, what timing. What timing indeed. What a backdrop. But, Mark, just to explain, these good weather days, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be sunny and warm. Good weather when it comes to what we designate as sort of red days on the Channel, it's about how still the water is rather than the temperature or anything that we might consider good weather on land.
Absolutely right, Tom, because now, of course, we see crossings all year round. They used to be very seasonal. In 2018, when this first started, 2019, even 2020, you would only really see crossings in the summer, and by the autumn they disappeared until the spring again, when we'd start to see them. But now, even, you know, in the dead of winter, in fact, New Year's Day, I think we had them last year or just the year before. If it's not windy in the Channel, it doesn't matter how cold it is, it doesn't even matter if it's raining. As long as the waves die down and there's nothing pushing the boats back on shore, then that's enough for the people smugglers to push these boats out into the Channel. They don't care if the migrants are cold, just as long as they can get across.
Now, this one in, one out, so apparently are we on 4 now that have been sent back on it? How is that faring for the Labour Party?
I've just messaged the Home Office to ask for an update on today's figures, but I think they'll be very modest at best, if any, across the day. It's clearly just being bogged down by constant challenges that are just making it like wading through treacle as far as the Home Office is concerned in its ability to try and get these migrants off the ground. Because we were told the way that these scheduled flights through Air France would operate is maybe about 10 a flight would go off. Well, we're lucky if every 1 or 2 days one a flight is getting off at the moment. So, yeah, I think we're probably looking at we're already at 6,000 migrants who've crossed the Channel since this deal with France became operational.
4 out.
Well, come Monday, when the Labour Party conference is underway, I suspect we'll be lucky if there's a dozen that have been returned to France in that time, and we're probably going to be looking well over 7,000 who've come from France in that period.
Okay.
Mark White, thank you very much. You know, I can imagine this was created through some sort of dreamscape, and then the migrants will go here, and then they'll go there, and then without any... It's just a total delusion that they thought that they'd be able to send them back if they came here. They should have known the legal challenges that we're all paying for. It's absurd.
But they're the grown-ups.
Oh, yes.
Legal challenges only occur when the Tories are in power.
Oh,
that was clearly the thought. You know, they just need some sensible people in the Home Office, and then the system will work smoothly.
And they're not as corrupt at all, or as terrible as the Tory party, are they? Really? 15 months? What's next? Is it Morgan McSweeney? He's the next one on the chopping block, potentially.
Well, what a brilliant setup, because we'll be talking about that precisely next. Do stay with us here on Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more to come, including...
Oh, sorry, you go.
Did the United Nations sabotage Donald Trump? The president's escalator, of course, broke the moment he stepped on it, and his auto cue broke down too. We'll speak to the journalist who heard the word of sabotage plans before Trump arrived.
But after the break, in another blow to Keir Starmer, new evidence surfaces over the Prime Minister's undeclared £700,000 donation. Leaked emails now reveal lawyers advising Downing Street Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney to describe the enormous unreported donations as an admin error.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It has emerged that the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff was advised to describe over £700,000 in hidden donations as an admin error.
This is a shocking story. It's a leaked email from a senior Labour lawyer to Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister now. He was advised that if he could not answer questions over the money, he should put them down as an admin error.
We're joined now in the studio by GB News' political correspondent Olivia Utley. Olivia, tell us more about this.
Well, it's a pretty damaging story for the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. He used to be the head of a think tank called Labour Together, and in the run-up to the 2020 leadership election where Keir Starmer was elected, that think tank received over £700,000 worth in donations. Now, those donations were put towards polling and focus groups, expensive sort of political things, which helped indirectly to get Keir Starmer elected as Labour leader. Now, those donations should have been disclosed to the Electoral Commission, and most damagingly of all for Morgan McSweeney, he knew that those donations should have been disclosed because in 2017 he was directly told by a lawyer that anything over £1,500 had to be disclosed to the Electoral Commission. In the years directly after 2017, he did disclose any donations over £1,500, so he was well aware there was a precedent set that donations should be disclosed. But when these big donations started coming in 2020, he failed to disclose them. Now, the email that's come to light, which puts it all in a particularly bad light, is a lawyer, a senior Labour lawyer, saying to Morgan McSweeney, well, if you can't find a way to explain these donations, and he sort of implies that there is no reasonable way to explain these donations, then it would have to be put down to an admin error.
Now, that does sound suspicious because I don't want to put words into people's mouths, but is that sort of excuse-making, trying to concoct a way to describe something that may or may not have been a deliberate act to obscure the amount of money that was actually churning around the system to get Keir Starmer into the position he is now? I mean, if he's Mr. Integrity, Mr. Rules, this is breaking every rule in the book.
And I think that's what's so difficult for Keir Starmer. In the run-up to the general election, he talked a lot about a sort of decent government, a government that avoids all these sleaze scandals. Everyone was fed up with the sleaze scandals in the last days of the Conservative government. He talked about politics that treads more lightly on people's lives. And yet, in the last few months, we've had the forced resignation of both Angela Rayner and Lord Mandelson as the American ambassador. And now we could be in a position where the Prime Minister is about to lose his Chief of Staff. And make no mistake, Morgan McSweeney is the most sort of important, most influential unelected person in this country. Keir Starmer is going to be caught between a bit of a rock and a hard place here, because on the one hand, it would be advisable in a way just to get rid of Morgan McSweeney quickly and to show that he has the political nous, which he seemed to lack with both Angela Rayner and Lord Mandelson, both of whom the scandal sort of dragged on and on and on until his hand was forced. But on the other hand, losing his chief, right-hand man at this really, really pivotal stage in his career as Prime Minister could be very damaging for him indeed.
Very briefly, could this be a sort of an attempted attack on Keir Starmer in a way? Because it feels all of these things are coming to light now. I mean, why now?
Well, it's the Conservatives who've unearthed this email, and why they're putting it out now, possibly because we are in the run-up to the Labour Party conference. The parties generally like to kind of overshadow each other's party conferences. It could be that they sense a real weakness in Keir Starmer at the moment off the back of Mandelson and Rayner, and they think that now is their moment to sort of strike.
Isn't it interesting? At the time of the last Labour Party conference, again in Liverpool, this time last year, we were all talking about the then Chief of Staff, Sue Gray.
Oh, yes.
And she only lasted a month or so after that conference. I wonder if they're trying to sort of make history repeat itself.
Ah, that's a very good point.
I met Sue Gray.
Is she still envoy to the nations and regions?
That all dissipated. She's now just a member of the House of Lords. No title in government.
Yes, I met her. I said, oh, hello, Sue. And obviously, because I've seen her on the TV. She went, hello, Nana. Obviously, because she's seen me on the TV. So I was like, all right.
Amazing. Well, we should say that a spokesman for Labour Together, that group, says that Labour Together proactively raised concerns about its own reporting of donations to the Electoral Commission in 2020. Their investigation, with which Labour Together fully cooperated, was completed in 2021. The outcome was made public.
And a spokesperson for the Electoral Commission said it had thoroughly investigated the late reporting of donations by Labour Together in 2021. They added, we are satisfied that the evidence proved beyond reasonable doubt that failures by the association occurred without reasonable excuse. Offences were determined and they were sanctioned accordingly.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more to come.
Yes, drivers could be taxed 9p per mile driven to help Rachel Reeves fix a hole in Britain's public finances. But will this be enough to save the Chancellor?
Well, all of that and much more to come after your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. 1:30, the top story this lunchtime. A 40-year-old man has been arrested in West Sussex after a cyber attack caused days of disruption at airports, including London Heathrow. Airlines are still checking in passengers with pen and paper as the baggage software provider rebuilds its systems. Energy watchdog Ofgem will force suppliers to offer at least one tariff with lower standing from charges from January, but warns bills won't necessarily fall. Campaigners call it only a small step as charges remain unfair for low energy users. Donald Trump has said Ukraine can now win back all its original borders, a sharp U-turn after talks with President Zelenskyy. The US president branded Russia a paper tiger as NATO vowed to hit back at airspace incursions. Doctors in London say Huntington's, one of the cruelest brain diseases, has been successfully treated for the first time. A new gene therapy slowed the condition by 75%, giving patients decades more good quality life. The UK's AI fraud buster has clawed back nearly £500 million in a year, much of it lost during COVID. Ministers say the saving will fund nurses, teachers, police. Those are the latest headlines, much more still to come.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Sam. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, a Muslim man who attacked a protester burning a Quran outside the Turkish consulate in London with a knife, well, he's been spared jail. The protester he attacked was convicted for a religiously aggravated public order offence. Is this another example of two-tier justice?
Well, stay with us. All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any low cloud, mist or fog clearing quite readily through the course of the morning, leaving a mostly dry day with sunny spells and temperatures around about average for the time of year, so still feeling rather chilly in the brisk breeze. But the reason for the dry settled conditions is all thanks to high pressure, and it stops this front moving too far inland, though we could just start to see more cloud push into the far northwest of Scotland later. Also a fair amount of cloud across northern and central parts of England, a chance this could produce the odd light shower, but for most, a dry day with sunny spells, temperatures around about average, so just pushing into 17, possibly 18, 19 degrees across parts of the southeast, but around the mid-teens elsewhere. Now, it could be fairly breezy for a time, particularly across East Anglian coasts, parts of Sussex and Kent, but those winds will largely ease away through the course of the evening, remaining mostly dry and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. A mix of cloud and also some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, and fairly similar conditions across Scotland too, though once again it could be fairly breezy across parts of the northwest, some more cloud starting to edge its way into far western coasts of Scotland. But otherwise it should remain dry through the overnight period, but with fairly light winds and clear skies, it's likely to be another chilly night. Some localised frost, particularly in western areas, and also a chance once again we could see some low cloud and mist and fog as we head our way towards dawn. Less so across parts of the southeast, some more cloud pushing in here, so temperatures won't get quite as chilly, but many towns and cities dropping to around the mid to high single figures. So it is going to be a fairly chilly start once again, but any mist or fog clearing quite quickly through the course of the morning, and it should be a fairly similar day, remaining mostly dry. Less chance of some showers, though a chance of some very light rain just pushing it into the far northwest. Still quite breezy here at times too. Fairly similar temperatures to what we'll see this afternoon, but we could just push into 20 degrees Celsius across the southeast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 westbound exit slip at junction 25A is closed due to overnight roadworks, with a signed diversion route. On the A1M northbound between junctions 47 and 48 in North Yorkshire, one lane is closed for vehicle recovery. In Rochdale, the M62 eastbound faces delays due to a broken down vehicle between junctions 19 and 20. And on the trains, London North Western Railway has disruptions on multiple routes. Northern buses replace trains between Corkickle and Whitehaven and between Manchester Piccadilly and Romilly via Bredbury. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. A Muslim man has been spared jail despite attacking someone for burning a Quran.
Yes, Musa Kadri saw Hamit Koskan setting alight the text before slashing him with a knife.
And following the incident, the man burning a Quran was convicted of a religiously aggravated public order offence. The man who attacked him, however, escaped jail, being handed a suspended sentence.
Well, now Lord Young of Acton, the General Secretary of the Free Speech Union, says that sentencing applies that any Muslim can personally enforce blasphemy punishments. Let's just remind ourselves of the incident and a warning that the following film does contain scenes that some viewers might find distressing.
Oh, you got a knife, man. Come don't come to me. Listen, I'm just filming, yeah?
Burning the Quran.
No, you shouldn't be. Listen.
It's my religion. You don't burn Quran. You don't burn.
He just did. He's done it.
Well, this was the aftermath of the incident, because there were scenes that we determined too distressing for daytime television that showed the man slashing the knife at the protester.
Wow, well, joining us now is journalist and free speech advocate Candice Holdsworth and human rights lawyer Shoaib Khan. All right, I'm going to start with you. Shoaib Khan, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, I think it's the right decision. So first, one thing, I generally have a problem with firstly, that we think that someone who isn't sent to jail isn't punished, and the only possible punishment they can be for anyone, any crime, is jail. And secondly, in this case, he actually received a jail sentence, but it was suspended, as it is in many thousands of cases regularly. If someone's generally of good character, if someone doesn't have previous criminal convictions, if there's no reason for them to actually physically be sent to jail, then the sentence is suspended. But he's got a criminal record, he has been convicted, and he did receive a prison sentence.
OK, so, just before we bring in Candice, can I just put this to you? We have seen people put in prison in this country for things that they've written online, who previously were in good standing, just as this gentleman was. Is the point of prison, at least in my view, the point of prison is to keep society safe from people that might go around slashing knives in our faces? Surely, if anyone is to go to prison, it's someone who's been convicted for a real-world knife attack, not someone who's written a tweet online.
Firstly, I think, especially considering, just look at recent events. So I don't think we keep undermining the importance of what we say and how we express our feelings online. I think it's very, very important. If you're inciting hatred, if you're inciting community division, then I think it's important those people are held to account. But yes, I agree with you. I think we're absolutely obsessed with prison. Anyone who says something, does something, a minor breach of the law, again, like I said, I think that's, it's symptomatic of a government or a system or judges or a community that has lost control of other people. Just like, if you can't control your child, the only thing you have is, as soon as he starts screaming, go to your room, because you can't deal with the situation. That's what we do. Deport them, exile them, lock them up, just get rid of these people. But no, those are our people. Those are British people. We have to deal with them, whoever they are. So I agree with you. There are many, many people who shouldn't have been sent to prison, and they are. We're just absolutely obsessed with locking people up.
All right, Candice, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there are so many disturbing things about this case. We're focusing on this individual, Musa Kadri, who received a suspended sentence for what many think was extreme violence. I saw that the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, has said, why weren't certain criminal charges brought against him when he was clearly threatening to kill someone with a knife? The charges that were brought against him, for the most part, would only receive a suspended sentence, which he received. The judge made absolutely no mention of the fact that in a free society, someone is allowed to express their political opinion without being violently attacked. And then, of course, there's Hamit Koskan, who many of us who advocate for free speech do not think he should have been charged at all. In fact, one of the reasons that he was charged with a public order offence is because he caused other people, this is what the prosecutor argued in court, he caused other people to violently attack him, therefore saying that because someone chose to be offended by what he had done, they violently attacked him, and it justified attacking him. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is absurd. It should not have taken place in a free society.
At least, I mean, the person wielding a knife should be done for holding a knife, and also in public, and should have some sort of... He did try and attack him, so I just don't understand why nothing really happened to that person.
I mean, it's strange, because it's like we've abrogated this foundational idea of property rights. Sharab, this is my book. I own this book. I bought this book. If I were to tear this book, rip this book, destroy this book in some way, that's my right to do. Whatever's written inside it happens to be notes about today's show. But if this was the words that are contained within the Holy Quran, and I decided to rip up this book on air...
What, in the studio?
In the studio now...
You'd be fired.
Well, I probably would be, but doesn't that mean that we're not living in a country that has any semblance of freedom of speech?
No, that doesn't, because how is that the only... What are you trying to signify by that? What's your point? What can't we just discuss?
It's my book and I can do
like
what
Islam.
I want with it.
No, but you're talking about freedom of speech. Tell me the problems you have with Islam, as people do regularly, and let's have a discussion. If your only solution is, I don't like what this person says, let's go and, go stand outside a public building on a public road.
With respect, that's besides the point. I'm not talking about whether or not I have problems with Islam. I could love every aspect of Islam, but I should still be able to do what I want with my own property without fearing for my life.
I mean, to be honest, you shouldn't be setting fire to anything on a public road that people are crossing. I just don't understand how people don't understand that. What does that mean? Do it on your own room then. If that's the thing, oh, I've got this property, I need to get rid of it, I want to set it on fire, then do it in your own room. Do it where, other people aren't put in danger. I just don't understand. And obviously,
why is anyone put in danger?
So can I ask then? So if somebody saw him doing that and then attacked him with a knife because they thought it wasn't right, who is worse? The person burning the book or the person going to attack him with a knife for burning the book?
So the second one is, and that's why he received a prison sentence. The first one didn't. He just received a fine.
But even to attack someone...
Sorry?
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So he did receive a... I mean, if he hadn't been convicted or charged, or we had let him go, or we had, I don't know, knighted him, then fine, all of this argument makes sense. He actually was taken to court. The case was proven. The judge believed he did wrong. He's got a criminal record. He's been convicted, and he received a prison sentence.
But to bring this back to Candace Holdsworth just for a second, I suppose the issue here isn't just that this person got a suspended sentence when there are people who've been sent to prison for far lesser, non-real-world speech crimes, but that the person who did a protest act of burning a book that he owned was sentenced as well.
Yes, I mean, we've forgotten that that Hamid Kozkan has laid out very intelligently why he burned the Quran in front of the Turkish embassy. He's a long-time critic of the Erdogan regime in Turkey, and he believes that Turkey is departing from its secular traditions, and he believes it's becoming increasingly Islamized. He is allowed to express that opinion. He is. And free speech in this country also protects British Muslims who are then allowed in our society to criticize their religion. And I think one of the things that Hamid Kozkan was trying to say, in Turkey, the country where he is born, the country of his birth, he does not have those freedoms. It is absolutely ridiculous that he came to Britain because he thought it would be a haven of free speech and of secularism and the ability to criticize any religion, and he ended up getting convicted. I mean, it offends everything in our society that we stand for.
I just don't understand. I mean, if it was any other issue, someone was setting fire to anything to protest against something happening in some country thousands of miles away, we would all be condemning it. I just don't understand why we're saying that's the only way he had. That's the only way he had to protest.
I don't think anyone would be arrested if they burnt a flag outside. I mean, in the United States, at the very least, there have been constitutional amendments. There have been constitutional cases about this in the Supreme Court. You're allowed to burn an American flag. You're allowed to burn whatever flag you want. And indeed, if you own a book, you should be able to burn it. It's distasteful, yes, absolutely, but you should be free to do it. My goodness. Sadiq Khan, Candace Holdsworth, I wish we could continue this. I think there's so much more to say, but we do have to get to an advert break. But thank you indeed for joining us.
Yes, right. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. If you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Western and central parts of Europe will start to see any heavy downpours easing away, though some scattered showers will still remain. That's not so much the case across the Canary Islands, Madeira, also Spain and Portugal. Mostly settled here, largely dry, plenty of sunny spells. But across France, even into parts of Germany, we could still see some isolated showers remain. But through Italy, the Adriatic coastline and also parts of Greece remaining settled, dry with sunny spells, though we could start to see more showers over the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've been here for a few hours now, and every hour there's just more and more people here coming to celebrate Gibraltar's National Day. You can see all around, it's a sea of red and white, people dressing as the flag. We've got huge flags up, including this massive Union flag, as you can see there, with the Gibraltar flag right in the middle of it. Everybody here today telling us all how proud they are to be Gibraltarian and how proud they are to be British. And one of those is Simi. Simi, you're Gibraltarian, you were alive at the time of that referendum.
Oh yeah.
Why is today so important?
Because it's important because we don't want to be any other nation. We've been brought up British. English is our main language everywhere, and our second language is Spanish. So we're very proud of being British and everything that's British with it. You know, the monarchs and the political parties, everything.
And tell us about this rosette as well.
This rosette used to belong to my father, my late father, and he used to wear this on National. This was done on National Day, and I wear it so that my father is close to my heart. For him, it was a very big day.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Simi, for talking to us. And just as you can hear from Simi there, just the sense of how important today is for all these people here celebrating being British.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Right, good afternoon, Britain, and welcome. Lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts. Let's see what I've got. Dark Days Ahead said, why is it when you call a white person useless, there's allegedly no racism involved? But if you call a black or brown person useless, it's racism. And then added into the mix, if you call a Muslim person useless, it's racism and Islamophobia. How does that work? And this is a danger of the nonsense having definitions of these things, because anybody can be accused of that, whether they meant it or not.
Yeah, I think this is about what Donald Trump said about Sadiq Khan, calling him useless, and then Khan says that he's an Islamophobe.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, yeah, so linked to that.
Although, to be fair, I think probably the Donald Trump comment on he wants Sharia law in London probably is the greater link to
Potentially, but this is just one of our potentially that's some dark days. Thank you for that.
Well, I should say that a lot of people have been getting in touch about that debate that we had. Molly says we need to stop and search everyone and have knife arches everywhere. Why are people allowed to carry knives? The fact that this man had a knife in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Sean says spared jail over a knife attack. Oh my God, I want to know why a grown man is going round with a knife in his possession. Lots of concerns about the knife there.
And then Clarky talking about Sadiq Khan again. As far as Sadiq Khan is concerned, people in glass houses definitely shouldn't throw stones. They're all having to go with each other, aren't they?
I think it is worth noting on the story of Morgan McSweeney, the £740,000 donation that was not declared to get Keir Starmer the job that he has. Well, it was all argued to be called an admin error. Paddy Barrett has written in, personally, if I had to sum up the last 15 months, I would say admin error works pretty well.
Very good. Well, good afternoon. If you just tuned in, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show. Remember, you can get in touch with your thoughts, your views, gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any low cloud, mist or fog clearing quite readily through the course of the morning, leaving a mostly dry day with sunny spells and temperatures around about average for the time of year, so still feeling rather chilly in the brisk breeze. But the reason for the dry settle conditions is all thanks to high pressure, and it stops this front moving too far inland, though we could just start to see more cloud push into the far northwest of Scotland later. Also a fair amount of cloud across northern and central parts of England, a chance this could produce the odd light shower, but for most a dry day with sunny spells, temperatures around about average, so just pushing into 17, possibly 18, 19 degrees across parts of the southeast, but around the mid-teens elsewhere. Now, it could be fairly breezy for a time, particularly across East Anglian coasts, parts of Sussex and Kent, but those winds will largely ease away through the course of the evening, remaining mostly dry and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. A mix of cloud and also some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, and fairly similar conditions across Scotland too, though once again it could be fairly breezy across parts of the northwest, some more clouds starting to edge its way into far western coasts of Scotland. But otherwise it should remain dry through the overnight period, but with fairly light winds and clear skies, it's likely to be another chilly night. Some localised frost, particularly in western areas, and also a chance once again we could see some low cloud and mist and fog as we head our way towards dawn. Less so across parts of the southeast, some more cloud pushing in here, so temperatures won't get quite as chilly, but many towns and cities dropping to around the mid to high single figures. So it is going to be a fairly chilly start once again, but any mist or fog clearing quite quickly through the course of the morning, and it should be a fairly similar day, remaining mostly dry. Less chance of some showers, though a chance of some very light rain just pushing it into the far northwest. Still quite breezy here at times too. Fairly similar temperatures to what we'll see this afternoon, but we could just push into 20 degrees Celsius across the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 24th of September. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akua.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. Let's see, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Yes, that was just one of the bold claims made by Donald Trump as he addressed the United Nations in an astonishing hour-long speech full of challenges for European leaders. The American president also took the opportunity to reaffirm his views about the London mayor.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible, terrible mayor. And it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law.
But Sadiq has hit back, and he's certainly not pulling his punches.
I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
The news, a red day warning. Experts are forecasting major small boat migrant crossing days from this Friday. GB News can confirm border forces bracing for a huge surge this weekend, just in time for the Labour Party's annual conference.
Well, there's no doubt Sir Keir Starmer will be trying to accentuate the positive, all the things that he says his government is doing to get on top of the migration crisis. But the stark reality is more than 7,000 will have arrived since this small boats return deal with France was signed, and only a few have been returned to France.
Well, did the UN sabotage Donald Trump after the president's escalator stopped working the moment he stepped on it, and his autocue also broke down? We speak to the journalist who heard word of sabotage plans from the UN workers upset with Donald Trump's budget cuts.
And Jimmy Kimmel said through tears that it was never my intention to make fun of Charlie Kirk's death as his late-night show returned to television after a hiatus.
Drivers could be taxed up to 9 pence per mile, driven to help Rachel Reeves fix a hole in Britain's public finances. But will this be enough to save the Chancellor? Yes. Do you drive, Tom?
I do.
Are you prepared to pay up to 9 pence a mile for every journey that you make?
No, because I pay tax on the fuel that I buy. But electric cars don't. And as we move from cars that have petrol or diesel to cars that have electricity, well, fuel duty currently raises £15 billion a year for the Chancellor. £15 billion a year. If everyone moves to electric cars, that's a £15 billion hole in the finances. It has to be filled somehow.
Do you see everyone moving to electric cars?
Not in the short term, but yes, in the long term.
I don't see that at all.
No?
There's no way of supplying that much electricity to supply that many vehicles. They're also really heavy. They're also really expensive. They've got they burn through roads, and also you can't really put a fire out on an electric car. And if you are unfortunate enough to be in one when it's on fire and all the electrics are gone, God help you.
Have you ever been in a fire in a car with petrol? I mean,
I have, yes.
Did they
I have. No, I have. And I ran for my life.
Right,
but it didn't explode.
Right, but I mean, let's be real. Cars on fire, whatever kind of car they are, that's a really bad thing.
Out. You see, you can get out. That's the difference.
Well, here's the thing. I think...
And also, when they start burning, they don't stop until the battery's died. So you literally have to stay there.
But also with a car with petrol or diesel, it depends how full the tank is and all the rest of it. It can be incredibly dangerous.
At least the doors might open.
The doors could open with an electric car as well, depending on the design. But this is one of the things, right? If you need the electrics to work for the door to open, obviously that's a bad design.
That's a very bad... That's the electric car.
But there are some electric cars that don't need electricity for the doors to open. Lots of different makes.
Which ones do you find one?
Here's the thing, though.
Danny.
They are becoming cheaper and cheaper. There's a company called BYD in China that are making these things cheaper now than petrol cars. China is moving over to electric vehicles very quickly. I think 80% of cars now sold in Norway, they're electric. I think eventually we will all have electric cars, but I'm not going to get one until... I'm not going to get one until there are places to charge them, they last longer, they have a bigger range, all the rest of it. I'm not going to get one until it's a more mature technology. But when it becomes a mature technology, then the Chancellor's got a massive hole, a massive hole in her budget.
But listen, by the time that comes, that's like maybe 10, 15 years, they will not be in office. I don't even think the Labour Party will survive for the full term this time. I don't think
it's mad to plan for a world without fuel duty revenue.
Well, not that lot. I don't want that lot to plan anything because I've seen how disastrous they are. They've only been in for 14 months and look at the mess they've made. Talk about a black hole, it's now a cravat. Or crevasse, even.
Crevasse. Amazing. Right, well, so much more to come. We'll be getting all the very latest after your news headlines.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 2 o'clock, the top story this afternoon. Sir Sadiq Khan has branded Donald Trump racist, sexist and Islamophobic after the US president claimed the mayor wants London to, quote, go to Sharia law.
I look at London where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. But you're in a different country. You can't do that.
Well, Sir Sadiq has hit back, saying he has, quote, squatters' rights in Mr Trump's head and is thankful for record numbers of American visitors to the capital. Labour has also dismissed the attack, saying the president was misreading London, stressing it remains a global hub of law, culture and of creativity. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, though, backed Trump's concerns, saying Sharia is an issue in London, although not an overwhelming one. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is set to address the UN General Assembly in New York shortly after praising Donald Trump's big shift on the war. For the first time, Trump said that Ukraine could win all of Ukraine back in its original form and called Russia a paper tiger in big economic trouble. But he stopped short of pledging more US funding or weapons, leaving Kyiv's hopes still out of reach. Moscow has now hit back, insisting that Russia is more bear than paper tiger. In other news this hour, a man in his 40s has been arrested in West Sussex over a cyber attack that caused days of chaos at airports across Europe, including Heathrow. The National Crime Agency says the attack targeted firm Collins Aerospace, whose check-in and baggage software has been offline since Friday. Hundreds of flights have faced delays, with some airports forced to process passengers using pen and paper. Officials say ransomware was deployed as Collins scrambles to rebuild its systems and urges airlines to prepare for at least another week of disruption. A leaked Labour document has shown Sir Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff was told to describe £700,000 of undeclared donations as an admin error. The advice came from the party's lawyer in 2021 after the elections watchdog had said those funds should have been reported. The Conservatives are now demanding an investigation, accusing the Prime Minister of failing to declare support from Labour Together. The think tank, once led by Morgan McSweeney, was fined more than 20 breaches at the time. But speaking to GB News earlier today, the Senior Minister for Labour, Pat McFadden, said the issue was dealt with years ago and he insists McSweeney will remain in his post.
I'm not surprised that political opponents are trying to attack Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff at Number 10. He's very effective. He was a big part of Labour's election victory last year. So I'm not surprised they're attacking him, but the Electoral Commission's job is to police all these things, and they said they looked into it some years ago.
Ofgem has confirmed that energy suppliers must now offer at least one tariff with lower standing charges from January, though the fixed costs won't be scrapped entirely. The regulator says the move will give households more choice on how they pay by shifting some of the daily fee into unit rates. It follows consumer pressure to reform the charges, which apply regardless of how much energy people use. Campaigners say the change, though, is only a small step forward, as bills are still set to rise by 2% in October. And doctors here in London have said that Huntington's, one of the cruelest brain diseases, has been successfully treated for the first time. A new gene therapy slowed the condition by 75%, giving patients decades more good quality life. One patient on trial even returned to work. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you in half an hour, but first let's take a look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, the pound will buy you $1.3477 and €1.1454. The price of gold, £2,794.32 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,211 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Should we do it together?
Why not?
Good afternoon, Britain.
I'm not going to sing it.
No, don't sing it. All right, that's a good afternoon, Britain. 10 minutes after 2 o'clock. Now, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has responded to the latest attack from Donald Trump made yesterday during the United Nations Assembly as their ongoing feud continues.
Well, it all comes as the US President has said that he addressed a UN... he did address the UN in an astonishing hour-long speech full of challenges for European leaders.
Our political editor, Christopher Hope, has the latest. So, give us an update. Where are we now with all of this?
OK, two things happened yesterday, Tom and Nana. There was a bit of handbags between Donald Trump and the Mayor of London, and some really important stuff mattered and happened about Ukraine and the US and Russia. Let's go to the first one first, though. We heard there language from Donald Trump in his speech. He used the UN General Assembly, the key moment to address world leaders from that platform. You're seeing there on screen him giving that address to say, look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, a terrible mayor, he said, and it's been changed. It's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. Now, overnight we had other MPs backing Sadiq Khan, notably Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. This morning, of course, we had Pat McFadden, the Welfare Secretary. And now Sadiq Khan has hit back from aboard a London bus. Let's hear what he had to say.
I think President Trump has shown he is racist, he is sexist, he is misogynistic, and he's Islamophobic.
Racist, sexist, misogynistic and Islamophobic. I mean, he's picked all the key attacks there from the left on Donald Trump, and maybe that's the point. He's making these points because he can do it as the most senior elected politician who's not in government, not in Parliament, and that's why the number 10 don't say anything. They think, well, here's a guy, he's an elected politician, he can say what he likes. It's a vent, frankly, for the left. He's saying what the left think about Trump, and Trump attacks Sadiq Khan. That's also risk-free for him, no risk to attacking the special relationship. Bishop, embarrassingly King, or indeed Prime Minister Tony Blair. So that happened yesterday, and also this other big thing happened, and really important. Donald Trump said that President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can take the fight to the paper tiger Russia. He said that the Ukraine could take back all of its territory and go even further than that. Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, he said, is in a position to fight and win in capitals all of Ukraine back in its original form. This is a U-turn, frankly, on where this administration was earlier this year, the nadir of which was that meeting in the Oval Office a week after I was in there with Keir Starmer, when, of course, Zelenskyy was taken down by Donald Trump, by J.D. Vance, his deputy, for not respecting the Oval Office, for not having a realistic way to take forward this war with Russia, obviously not wearing a suit, and that was seen as disrespectful to the office of the President of the United States. He also said this, Donald Trump: with time, patience and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from this war started is very much open. Why not? What it means there, financial support, not military support. So holding back from saying US troops getting involved, but that's where the question goes next. And just finally, away from the podium at the UN General Assembly, he was asked directly, should NATO warplanes shoot down Russia fighters if they get into NATO countries' airspace? That happened recently in Estonia and in Poland. And Donald Trump said yes. This is seismic. Big news out of the UN General Assembly in New York.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. That's our political editor here at GB News.
Well, we're going to turn stateside now, because Donald Trump's evisceration of Europe's migration policies is still ringing in the ears of Europe's leaders. And back here at home, GB News can confirm Border Force is facing a huge surge of channeled migrants this very weekend.
Yes, that's because weather conditions are expected to improve on Friday, which will allow people smugglers to push out many hundreds of migrants into the channel.
Well, joining us is our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. So, Mark, there's been a bit of a lull, but we're expecting a pretty significant surge.
Yeah, there's been lots of sort of lulls in activity just because of the vagaries of the weather unusually for this time of the year. So you remember last Friday we had 1,072 cross in a single day, because we had, after a week of bad weather, an improvement in the weather conditions. People smugglers then pushed out very significant numbers. I think we'll see a repeat of that this weekend, but it may actually run for a few more days. Last week it was really just the Friday, with one boat that came on the Saturday. Now we're looking at relatively good days later on Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and perhaps Monday as well. So we could see very significant numbers. And of course, the timing couldn't be worse for the Prime Minister, because he is going to be at the Labour Party conference. He will be giving his keynote address, in which he will be highlighting, of course, the many positives that his government has achieved. But one of the real difficult areas in trying to accentuate the positivity is the migration crisis. Now, they'll say that they've returned 30,000, 35,000 people with no right to remain in this country back to their home country since coming to power, which is up on where it was under the Conservatives. But in terms of stopping those coming across the Channel, well, not only are they failing to stop them, we're in record territory, 32,000 this year already, which is roughly about 40% ahead of where we were at this point last year.
OK, but if we know that the weather is good this weekend, and we know that they travel during good weather, what additional things are we doing to make sure that they don't come? Because we have an idea of when they're all going to be coming.
Well, we're doing very little on that score, because it's not really in our gift to be able to stop them on the beaches of France. That is the sovereign territory of the French government, and it's for French law enforcement officials, with hundreds of millions of pounds, of course, given by the UK, to carry out the policing operations that stop these crossings, or try to stop the crossings. But we know that's not been working by and large over the years. They have some successes, but the vast majority of efforts to try to cross the Channel succeed.
I think, what about the wave machine at the start of the day, so nobody can actually take off?
You love your wave machine.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking...
How on earth would a wave machine work across the miles of coastline?
No, maybe you can get one that stretches 10 miles, because it's about 10 miles we need, isn't it, just going from where we are.
Then they'd set off further along the coast. And by the way, how are you going to move so much water in this vast,
I don't know,
channel?
but I just have a vision that you could slightly change the conditions so that they cannot get on the boats in the first place.
I love this science fiction. I just don't think it's...
Well, look, if... I mean, they're talking about obscuring the sun, for God's sake. Listen, if there is some way of changing the conditions so they cannot get on the dinghy to get across, because the only thing that stops them is the weather, then it might well be worth investigating.
If we could manipulate the weather, I think, number one, we should make summer a bit hotter. And maybe give some more rain to our farmers. I think there's lots of priorities to do if we can suddenly control the weather.
Well, I'm not talking about I'm just talking about if there is such a thing, and then I would use that somehow to stop people from actually getting on the boats in the first place. Because it is the weather that stops them, isn't it? Because we can't do anything else.
Well, we could change the law.
We can't send them back there. Well, they don't want to change the law, do they? They won't let us change the law.
Mark White, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Happy to oblige.
Shall we get some more with the political commentator and migration expert Mike Jones now? Mike...
Can you ask Mike about the wave machine, please?
Oh, go on then. Let's indulge. Let's go on. Priti Patel did mention something about a wave machine some years ago.
Oh, she didn't.
No? Oh, sorry. Mark, what did she say?
There was a brainstorming within the Home Office about what could the potential solutions be. One of the wackier suggestions was a wave machine. It was never a serious suggestion. It was never given any real consideration.
All right, well, let's see. Mike, you heard that. I guess, Mark, Mark is right, I suspect. But a wave machine, there wouldn't be a bad idea if there was such a thing, would it?
Well, hypothetically, I suppose, but I think there are certain technological barriers to a wave machine. But Nana, I do appreciate your creativity and out-of-the-box thinking.
Now, Mike, of course, the biggest frustration here is that with the vast majority of these migrants, almost all of them, it's the border force vessels that pick them up halfway through the channel and then we deliver them to the United Kingdom. It's sort of, we operate a British taxpayer-funded ferry service to take people to the United Kingdom as soon as they're in our waters, our territories. Clearly, in an ideal world, we just take them back to France, but France will never allow that.
No, they won't, because it's their territory. I mean, ultimately, you have to rescue the migrants at sea because, they're in unseaworthy dinghies, and we're signed up to international treaties like the UN Convention on the Sea and various others like SOLAS. So the French won't take them back. They've made this crystal clear. Boris Johnson basically asked the French, would you take these people back when he was in power? And the French said no, flat out. So, when Rishi Sunak cut this deal with France, paying them, tens of millions of pounds, the French made it very clear that they would not take these people back, because obviously domestically that would create a lot of problems for France itself.
But it might get rid of the migrant jungles that operate around Calais. I mean, surely I could make an argument that this is in France's interest to stop the boat trade altogether, because then they'd get rid of these horrible migrant jungles.
Well, in the long term, it's in France's interest and in Britain's interest as well. But in the short and medium term, it would cause enormous problems for France, because these squatter camps would actually increase in size in France, because the French find it very difficult to deport these people, as do the British, because France is signed up to the ECHR. And the optics in terms of French domestic politics would be very bad. You'd have the centre-right parties saying, France is basically a holding pen for illegal migrants who want to make their way to Britain. Why can't Britain create the deterrent effect? Why do they have to rely on France? And obviously, France is cooperating with us on the Channel Tunnel, and they do stop a lot of people, a lot of illegal immigrants from making that journey there. So, whether you agree with them or not, France has put its line in the sand, and we have to deal with that.
Do you know, Mike, the more I think about it, it's laughable. It is laughable that all of the countries that we are, with these great minds around the EU and all of us around here, with the ECHR in place, are all sticking to something that just clearly is not working. It's not working in our interests at all. Would you say that getting out of the ECHR is the right move?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, From day one, I've said, leave the ECHR, abolish the Human Rights Act, abolish various other bits of legislation that are adjacent to the Refugee Convention, have a policy of detain and deport, reopen detention centres, have Nightingale-type detention centres, and thrash out returns agreements. And if, countries of origin don't play ball with us, use international aid as leverage, use visa bans as leverage.
Absolutely.
And explore remittance taxes or even remittance sanctions. We've got leverage there, use it. But the political class are not interested in this.
I don't think they're wise enough. I don't think they're clever enough. I think they're hamstruck by the civil service. They're hamstruck by this ECHR. They're hamstruck by themselves. I just don't get it. We could solve it right here, right now. We just have. Mike Jones, thank you very much, as a commentator and migration expert.
Well, we've got some breaking news to bring you now live on GB News. There's been a shooting in Dallas, Texas. We can see live pictures here of what the first responders are reacting to. Let's get those pictures up. After reporters of a shooter outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in Dallas, Texas.
Now, it's been reported by local media there that 3 people have been wounded in that incident. So some breaking news for you. What you're seeing are live pictures right now. There's been a shooting in Dallas. The pictures there were, what you're seeing are the first responders, and they're reacting to reports that there was a shooter outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office in Dallas, Texas.
Now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is more popularly known as ICE. That is the very controversial, Republicans love it, Democrats hate it, Immigration Enforcement Agency that have ramped up patrols, detentions and deportations under the Trump government. ICE being a very touchstone political issue. The fact that this has been a shooting outside an ICE office leads many to question whether this is a politically motivated shooting. Of course, we can't know for sure any motivation behind this mass shooting in Dallas, Texas.
I think the shooter was shot himself, actually. So I think, as far as I read the reports, the shooter took his own life with a single bullet. So,
yes.
So we won't really find the motivation. However, it will be interesting to see whether the shooter was potentially a migrant or somebody who would have potentially been caught up with these people, but multiple people have been killed, and so we will bring you more of that as and when we have it. So that is breaking news happening right now, live pictures of Dallas, Texas.
Absolutely, just an enormous story, no doubt much more on this story to come over the next hour or two as more is learned about why exactly this mass shooting happened outside an ICE office.
All right, 25 minutes after 2 o'clock. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Loads more on the way.
Jimmy Kimmel says through tears it was never my intention to make fun of Charlie Kirk's death on his late-night TV show as he returned to television. But after the break...
Did the UN sabotage Donald Trump after the president's escalator stopped working the moment he and Melania stepped on it? And his autocue broke down as well. We speak to the journalist who heard word of sabotage plans from the UN workers upset with Donald Trump's budget cuts.
All of that and more to come. Of course, more on that shooting in Dallas as well. Do stay with us. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 2:30. We're going to take you live to the United Nations now. Of course, Donald Trump spoke there extraordinarily yesterday. President Zelenskyy is speaking there currently. Let's just take a quick snippet of what he has to say.
Entered its airspace. Moldova is defending itself again from Russia's interference. We have helping Moldova, and Russia's trying to do to Moldova what Iran once did to Lebanon. And the global response, again, not enough. We have already lost Georgia in Europe. Human rights and the European nature of the state system are only shrinking there. Georgia is dependent on Russia. And for many, many years, Belarus has also been moving toward dependence on Russia. Europe cannot afford to lose Moldova too. It's important to remember how the world once ignored the need to help Georgia after Russia's attack, and how the moment was missed with Belarus. How Moldova must not be lost. And for Europe, supporting Moldova's stability is not costly, but failing to do so will come at a much higher price. That's why the EU needs to help Moldova now, with funding and energy support, not just words or political gestures. We must not forget about protecting the rights of people and the rights of nations in regions where these rights are under threat. The UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights must apply everywhere, but the Taliban in Afghanistan dragged a whole country back into the dark ages. Cartels in some Latin America countries are more powerful than the government there. This is all about collapse of international law and the weakness of the international institutions. And so it's about the rise of weapons. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, yesterday President Trump stood right here in this hall, and God saved him from a murder attempt during the campaign. A shot was fired from a rifle, and just a fraction of an inch saved his life. Just days ago, President, along with hundreds of thousands of Americans.
Okay, so that is President Zelenskyy addressing the UN Assembly. Donald Trump spoke very eloquently yesterday. We've been speaking about it all afternoon. If you missed his speech, don't forget you can check it out on YouTube. Download the GB News app, or download the GB News app and check out the programmes yesterday.
But there is so much to talk about the United Nations. Suspicions of sabotage of President Trump. Of course, his escalator stopped working the moment he stepped on it. His auto cue broke down too. Next, we're going to speak to the journalist who heard the words sabotage before any of this happened. Exactly what's going on? All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Any low cloud, mist or fog clearing quite readily through the course of the morning, leaving a mostly dry day with sunny spells and temperatures around about average for the time of year, so still feeling rather chilly in the brisk breeze. But the reason for the dry settled conditions is all thanks to high pressure, and it stops this front moving too far inland, though we could just start to see more cloud push into the far northwest of Scotland later. Also a fair amount of cloud across northern and central parts of England, a chance this could produce the odd light shower, but for most a dry day with sunny spells, temperatures around about average, so just pushing into 17, possibly 18, 19 degrees across parts of the southeast, but around the mid-teens elsewhere. Now, it could be fairly breezy for a time, particularly across East Anglian coasts, parts of Sussex and Kent, but those winds will largely ease away through the course of the evening, remaining mostly dry and fairly similar elsewhere across England and Wales. A mix of cloud and also some clearer skies across Northern Ireland, and fairly similar conditions across Scotland too, though once again it could be fairly breezy across parts of the northwest, some more cloud starting to edge its way into far western coasts of Scotland. But otherwise it should remain dry through the overnight period, but with fairly light winds and clear skies, it's likely to be another chilly night. Some localised frost, particularly in western areas, and also a chance once again we could see some low cloud and mist and fog as we head our way towards dawn. Less so across parts of the southeast, some more cloud pushing in here, so temperatures won't get quite as chilly, but many towns and cities dropping to around the mid to high single figures. So it is going to be a fairly chilly start once again, but any mist or fog clearing quite quickly through the course of the morning, and it should be a fairly similar day, remaining mostly dry. Less chance of some showers, though a chance of some very light rain just pushing it into the far northwest. Still quite breezy here at times too. Fairly similar temperatures to what we'll see this afternoon, but we could just push into 20 degrees Celsius across the southeast.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Roadworks are causing disruptions, with the M8 westbound exit slip at junction 25A closed overnight. Travellers should follow diversion routes. An accident on the A3 southbound near Milford causes severe delays due to a lane closure. Expect a broken down vehicle on the A19 northbound near Stockton-on-Tees. In Warwickshire, there's a collision on the M4-2 northbound, with 2 lanes closed. Surrey's A3 southbound also faces closures due to a road incident. Disruptions continue with Avanti West Coast through Llandudno Junction and Great Northern between Hertford North and Stevenage. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. Was Donald Trump sabotaged at the UN? The president's escalator grinds to a halt on his way to the General Assembly. Then his teleprompter fails to work. And things went from bad to worse for the president, as when he arrived at the podium, his teleprompter appeared to have failed.
Well, joining us now is the Washington editor and columnist at The Times, Katie Balls. Now, Katie, in your piece on Sunday, you wrote about the idea that escalators might suddenly, mysteriously start to fail. Why was that?
Yeah, I was doing almost a look ahead to the UN General Assembly and Trump's return there after 5 years. And of course, it's quite well documented that the Trump administration is very skeptical of the United Nations in its current form. And one of the things I was picking up when I was speaking to figures in New York, those involved, was that also, you know, there are some staff at the United Nations that don't feel that warm towards Donald Trump either. And word was spreading that, you know, they were joking about, oh, how could you take a stand, you know, a small form of protest against the US president? And one of the things that was said was you could turn off the lifts or the escalators and then say due to funding cuts, because one of the things the administration done has limited funding to certain projects. He has to walk up the stairs. So then, of course, when we were awaiting Donald Trump's speech, and initially, I don't think most people have seen the video of the escalator, but the president himself brought up the escalator in his speech. It did seem like a strange coincidence.
And the teleprompter failing as well, which I think previously had been working. But luckily he brought some notes. He was very prepared, which was a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think neither of those issues really got in his way. As you say, he began by saying, the teleprompter's not working for me. Luckily, I will sound even more from the heart and I can cope with this. I mean, he's done enough rallies in his time, and often his aides don't know what he's going to say and he's just in his element. And then also said, when he mentioned the escalator, well, luckily my wife is very healthy, as am I, so we can just walk up. So I think he was undeterred, but it was, at the time, lots of people started saying, this is a little bit strange because the teleprompter's not working, the escalator stopped, and then also you had a foreign translation airing over one of the live streams near the end. You had Caroline Leavitt, the president's spokesperson, saying that, you know, journalists in the travel pool who were with them were noting that the audio was different in the hall. Now, this can all be, you know, mishaps. We don't know exactly what happened. And the UN has come out and said everything is a coincidence for X reasons. And it's worth pointing out in the teleprompter, they're saying that's handled on the US side, not by the United Nations. They're blaming the escalator on potentially, they said it may have been Trump's videographer stepping on it that triggered a reaction. But it's certainly, I think, being noticed by figures in the administration. And you now have the president's spokesperson effectively saying they want to look into whether all these things were just, you know, rare coincidence that they all happened to Donald Trump and no one else at a conference where there is lots of animosity towards the US president, or not.
Really interesting to see, not least Caroline Leavitt pointing to the words that you wrote in the Times, in the Sunday Times, on this very issue. Katie Balls, thanks indeed for joining us and talking through a remarkable string of coincidences there at the United Nations.
Right, well, if you just tuned in, welcome. President Zelenskyy has taken to the stage at the UN. These are live pictures from there right now. We dipped into his speech earlier. We'll bring you a summary of what was said later on.
But staying stateside, Jimmy Kimmel, the comedian, he returned to late-night TV after his suspension, tearfully insisting he never meant to make light of Charlie Kirk's murder, while blasting Trump's attempts to silence him as un-American, in his words.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was...
Well, Donald Trump has insisted that he didn't really have anything to do with it at all. That's what he said. But let's find out more. Joining us now is comedian Adam Kumas. Adam, is there any evidence that Donald Trump and his organisation had anything to do with Jimmy Kimmel being taken off air? Because Jimmy Kimmel apparently didn't have very good ratings and some people don't find him funny.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Tom and Anna. It's great to be here. I think with regards to this, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because he did make a joke, a poor joke, and it seems like I guess this is Jimmy Kimmel's escalator moment, right? As soon as he said that joke, seems like something was pulled off the air. Whether it was directly influenced by Trump or not, as a comedian and as someone who really values free speech, I think it's really worth just noting, even if we don't agree with someone, and I don't agree with what Jimmy Kimmel said, it's probably worth not celebrating if he's pulled off the air. That's something that I think we've got to sort of die on our sword on this one and defend people, even if we don't agree with what they say. So I'm glad he's back. I won't be watching.
Can I just say, but isn't it that you work for an organisation? If I was to be on air and say something very unsavoury, forget freedom of speech, the organisation has the right to say, no, we don't want you saying that on air. We're going to take you off air for a little bit because we're concerned our advertisers might pull out and everything else like that. So freedom of speech, fine, but you're not free from the consequences of your words.
That's absolutely true, Nana, and I'd also stand by no company or business owes you anything. You know, whether if you're employed on a TV station or by any show, they don't have to give you the work. I agree with you there. One thing I would say is Graham Norton did say those exact words about there's not freedom from consequences. So we've got to make sure that we don't fall into the trap of what the left historically have been saying for the last 10 years, saying that it's good for cancellation. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I didn't like what he said, but we've got to defend. We've got to stick to our principles in this one. And the only reason why I say that, I make my living talking. I use my voice. So I can't hand on heart say I'd be happy with anyone losing their jobs for things they say.
Yeah, and of course the legacy of Charlie Kirk is be able to listen to people with different views. Let's try and keep that flame of freedom of speech alive. Adam Kumas, thanks indeed for joining us. Cheers.
Yeah, but within the confines of your organisation. If you're in business, then that's that. Right, this is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, drivers could be taxed 9p a mile to help Rachel Reeves fix her black hole in Britain's finances. But will this be enough to save the Chancellor?
But if you're in search of some holiday fun, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Western and central parts of Europe will start to see any heavy downpours easing away, though some scattered showers will still remain. That's not so much the case across the Canary Islands, Madeira, also Spain and Portugal. Mostly settled here, largely dry, plenty of sunny spells. But across France, even into parts of Germany, we could still see some isolated showers remain. But through Italy, the Adriatic coastline and also parts of Greece remaining settled, dry with sunny spells, though we could start to see more showers over the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 47 minutes past 2. And just to return you to that breaking news from just some moments ago, there's been a shooting in Dallas, Texas. And here we can see live pictures of where first responders are reacting after reports of a shooter outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement office. That's an ICE office in Dallas.
Now, the Dallas police say that a gunman opened fire from a nearby building. And then it's also been reported by local media that there are 3 people have been wounded in the incident. We can't confirm the exact number. Now, 1 victim died at the scene and 2 people have been rushed to hospital. And as I understand it, the shooter killed himself after he'd opened fire. So, and I'm not sure whether those 3 people include the shooter or not, but potentially they do because, as I said, one of the victims died.
But this will be a significant event, event for America and for politics more widely, because, of course, the ICE as an organisation is incredibly politically controversial. Donald Trump has ramped up ICE detentions, ramped up sort of finding illegal migrants, arresting illegal migrants with criminal records, and it's one of these facilities that has been doing this across the country that has been targeted in this shooting attack.
Well, of course, he would talk about what he's done in his migration policy is one of his very successful policies, as in his words, there have been no people entering the United States. I find that hard to believe, but anyway, he has brought it down significantly.
Well, we'll give you more updates on this Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office shooting as we have them.
Now, at home, Rachel Reeves is being urged to introduce a new vehicle tax to help repair Britain's public finances ahead of her autumn budget.
Well, drivers could be hit with a pay-per-mile tax, with heavier vehicles at risk being charged even higher prices.
The think tank behind the idea says that the scheme could raise up to £20 billion a year for the government. OK,
joining us now is used car dealer and motoring journalist Danny Kelly. Danny, great to see you. There is a certain logic here. I mean, if everyone suddenly gets an electric car, the Chancellor has got a massive, massive fuel-duty-shaped black hole in her finances.
That's right. They're pushing for cleaner motoring, aren't they? And the figures are plummeting. So at the moment, if you put a £10 of unleaded in, roughly about 35p goes to the Chancellor. That's a lot of dough, bearing in mind how many cars fill up at the forecourts, millions of miles every day in the United Kingdom. And Rachel Reeves is suffering the fact that people now are doing what they've been told and they're going greener. So what they've come up with, they've actually come up with something in addition to road tax. And it's my understanding that it's actually in addition to fuel duty as well. So it could be a triple whammy. The motorist is an easy target. And they could be paying, if you drive a small little car, you do 10,000 miles a year, you're going to have to pay another 300 quid. If you drive something like a Range Rover, you do 10,000 miles a year, you're going to have to pay another £900.
Well, you see, but it's not like they couldn't put some taxes on electricity, which I'm pretty sure they put taxes on electricity anyway. So before, electricity for charging your car was very cheap, and now it is equaling the price of petrol in some cases. So it's not as if they couldn't put the tax there. And it's obvious that this would have happened if everyone got an electric car. So do you think that perhaps Rachel Reeves is clutching at straws? Because, first of all, there aren't enough people with EVs anyway, and if we're all paying it now, really early, then she's making a killing, isn't she?
The motorist, Nana, has always been an easy target. They really have, because people drive not out of pleasure anymore. They drive out of necessity. You know, where I'm in the Midlands, you know, if you live in a rural part of Warwickshire, for example, you need your car. When I come down to London to do the show with you, Nana, on a Sunday, it's gridlocked. Not because people are doing it out of pleasure. It's because out of necessity. Maybe the public transport isn't up to it. It's not adequate. And so people are going to be forced to pay this dough, Nana and Tom. And as I just mentioned, this massive push for electric vehicles, and also petrol cars and diesel cars are becoming more economical. So you do make fewer trips to the pump. And it's also going to have one hell of an effect on second-hand values, because you can imagine if you wanted to buy yourself a lovely, I don't know, Range Rover Evoque, a top-of-the-range Range Rover Evoque, and all of a sudden you realise you're going to have to pay 9p a mile just to drive the damn thing, it's going to plummet in price.
Well, you know, our little Tom passed his driving test a little while ago. Do we have a picture of him? Look at him. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, dear, look at him.
Well, I have to say, I bought a second-hand car, and where I live, they charge... I bought a Mini. They charge you, if it's older, if it's more polluting, more to park where I live. So my parking... If I bought an electric car, my parking would be very, very cheap. My parking's more expensive because my car is
Well, they're
petrol.
just pushing this petrol diesel cars out of the way. Danny Kelly, look forward to seeing you on the weekend.
Great to see you.
That's the fabulous Danny Kelly. Oh.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here for Good Afternoon Britain. There is so much more to come still on the channel, though.
Absolutely. Do not go anywhere, because Martin Daubney is up next. But that's after an update with your weather.
Expect warm spells
with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good afternoon. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the overnight period, it is going to be turning chilly under clear skies once again, remaining mostly dry, but it's likely we'll see a return of the mist and fog through the early hours of the morning. And the reason for the settled spell of weather, well, it's all thanks to high pressure situated to the northeast of the country, but at times frontal systems will try to edge their way in, particularly as we head towards the weekend. Back to this evening though, once again remaining mostly dry. Plenty of prolonged clear spells, particularly in western areas. So it's in these spots, particularly rural areas, that we're likely to dip below freezing. So isolated frost in spots. Also some mist and fog, particularly around valleys. More cloud pushing into parts of the southeast. So not turning quite as chilly here, but it's likely in rural spots we'll dip below freezing once again. Then to start off on Thursday, it should be mostly dry and bright across Scotland, though this system is trying to edge its way in to the very far northwest. So more cloud here, a little bit breezy, and a chance you could see the odd spell of light rain. Similar across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, mostly dry and bright. There will be some mist and fog in places though, and once again fairly similar picture across the rest of England and Wales, and still fairly breezy around coasts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent too. But then once again, as we head through into Thursday, it is going to be dry, settled, some sunny spells, perhaps even wall-to-wall blue skies for many areas. Mostly light winds, so feeling pleasant in the sunshine, particularly across the southeast. But once again, breezier across western parts of Scotland. Higher clouds starting to edge their way in here, so a chance of some more hazy spells of sunshine across western Scotland. Just pushing into 20 degrees Celsius across the London area, but elsewhere mid to high teens. Through into the evening, we'll see a fairly similar pattern with clear skies, once again leading to some mist and fog, and it's also going to feel fairly chilly. Once again, western areas could see a slight frost by the time we reach the morning. That leads us into a dry, settled end to the week before spells of rain and possibly some strong winds as we head through into Saturday. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, Jeremy